Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, here it is. Welcome to the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Anaheim Mighty Ducks. That's a nice look, G. Bush.
I like it.
Is that new or just the first time you've worn it?
I wore it before, like, you know what I'm saying? I felt like in a hockey sense, so, you know, I just wanted to be festive. I'm a big hockey fan. I used to play in NHL 94.
No kidding, going way back.
NHL 94. Shout out to Jeremy Roenick, man.
Yeah, Jeremy Roenick ruled back in the day.
You know what I'm saying? Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, it's intense.
Man.
Intense.
Paul Coffey. Look, back then, I used
Two-way player.
I used to, Eric Lindros, when he was younger, Eric Lindros was 6'6", 250 running around on people.
He was going to change the game forever when he came in, and he did for a minute.
Yeah, he did.
But he had the concussions.
Yeah.
I liked when guys beat each other up in hockey. I enjoyed that.
Well, that's most fans do.
Yeah. And now it's out of the game.
You know, Mario
It's the best
Lemieux.
seat in sports.
It's not
when you're,
out of the
when
game,
you're on
by
the
the
ice,
way.
it's the best ticket in
You
sports.
mentioned that the other day, Jay. It's not out of the game. They still fight.
Oh, very little. Trust me.
I mean, comparatively,
when I became a
yes,
fan, when
but
I was
it's
8,
still in the game.
I couldn't watch a 20-minute stretch of NHL without seeing a great fight.
And you should have seen, like,
Which is why I watched when I was a kid.
I did hockey play-by-play in the minors for 1 year, and in the minor leagues,
it's brutal.
just crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
It's like the movie Slapshot.
They're
There's
all-
fights
it-
every minute.
It really is.
Or it was. I don't know what it's like
now.
now.
And they still fight in the minors, but not
Yeah.
nearly as much as they used to.
Why? I'm trying to think. Like, hockey in North America, obviously is big as Canada. But when you look at it in the United States, back then at that time period, you got to think about it. I was watching hockey just as much as I was watching like other sports, like
Really?
ESPN,
Me too. When it was on ESPN. And then when it left ESPN, it was like,
It's the worst move the NHL ever made, and now they've gone back to
Right, it's
ESPN.
too late.
Man, it's too late.
They'll build another generation of fans, but they lost all their momentum.
Yeah, but people don't, as you know, we've talked about this, people don't sit and watch ESPN like they used to.
They don't. It's more appointment viewing for games.
Right.
And in the old days, you were watching SportsCenter, and it would flow into an NHL game.
Right,
so
right.
it was a great lead-in.
Yep.
Today, no one's watching SportsCenter.
I don't think I've watched SportsCenter for more than a minute or two in years. I don't even know the last time.
Hey, you know what the downfall, and maybe Earl can attest to this too. It happened all over the world. Like, it happened all over entertainment. You had ESPN, which was a staple of what you watched. And then when we grew up, there was video countdown shows, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
106 in Park, and then you watch TRL, and they told you what videos was hot. People used to go in there. And then when you don't have those, it's just like, I just find myself yearning to be like, hey, man, what's the next video? Who's next? Who's
Right.
up? And
Well,
it's just not in the public sphere anymore.
Not
Even
anymore,
before
which
that-
is stunning to me. I never thought that would go away.
Ever.
Even before that, you used to get like Billboard magazine, and
Oh,
yeah.
you'd see the charts.
Sure.
Rolling Stones.
Absolutely.
You know what's amazing? Speaking in that vein, there's a new documentary just came out about We Are the World.
Really?
Just came out on Netflix this week.
It's a great song.
And it's about 2 hours. I watched the first hour and 15 minutes last night.
Did you see the part where they all trash on Cyndi Lauper?
They mentioned it briefly. I don't think we've got that because I still have 45 minutes to go, which
Okay.
I'll watch tonight. But what kind of blew my mind was, so they ended up doing it the same night as the American Music Awards, which at the time, are American Music Awards even still around?
Yes. They
Okay,
are.
but
They're not
they-
nearly as big a deal.
But in those days in the 80s, I mean, that was huge.
Absolutely.
Every big celebrity would go
Yeah.
to that. And what I didn't realize, I think Be Other World was in 84? Was it 84 or 85? I can't remember. So I was 13, 14, whatever
Yeah.
it was. And there were, like, one of the award categories was Best Black Artist. Like, it was separated. And I was just like,
Wow, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I was just like,
You got to think about this.
what?
Michael Jackson.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that's no longer.
Michael Jackson was the first black person ever on MTV. Like when they showed Billie Jean, black people, matter of fact, black people couldn't even get MTV because you had to add it to your package.
Right.
They had no cable like that. And the funny story about We Are the World, Prince refused to be in it.
Yes.
Well, they mentioned
They
that. They talked about it a little bit, but check out this documentary.
Check it out.
Yeah.
It's a behind the scenes of how it was started. You see, some of the people now, like Lionel Richie, who's had a lot of work done, but he's one of the big ones. Kenny Loggins, have you seen what this guy looks like recently?
Doesn't even look like the same guy.
Oh, my God.
When I saw him recently, I go, are we sure that's Kenny Loggins?
Hey,
Kenny Rogers before he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's
He had a different face.
You know what's so funny is that a black dude from Canton, Ohio, a Jewish guy from New York, and a rich white dude from Cleveland, Ohio, all know about who we are the world. Like, how does that happen? How does that?
Well,
how
that
does
was
you know?
so big.
We're different ages and everything. Like
That.
That was so
You're
big.
right, Bull. It was massive in the music business. When I remember when I first saw it, the very first time I heard that it was coming out, I may have even heard it on the radio before I saw the video.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw the video, I just remember thinking, this has never happened before and may never happen again.
Yeah.
Every single needle mover in the
Ever.
music industry
Yeah.
was in that video.
Yeah.
and then you look at all of them, you're like, man, these dudes are still famous. Like right now, if you go pick through,
Which
like,
tells you they picked the right people.
Right. Most of them are still famous.
Although Cyndi Lauper's only famous for doing an eczema commercial now.
And
I mean, she
yeah,
hasn't made
she's not
music
as
in years
big,
and
and
years.
had-
but-
she had a reality. She had a reality show where she was on,
Yeah.
and she was really big for
Pointer
that.
Sisters aren't that big anymore. But,
No.
But overall, like, who
was
these
great.
people are. I mean,
Lionel
it
Richie
was
was-
pretty big. One more thing, speaking of people that have been around a while, I had a chance to chat for the first time yesterday. What?
People that have been around a while. I love that.
Leon
It's a nice
Bibb.
way of saying, speaking of old people.
So I kind of, like, I met, Leon, the only time I'd seen Leon Bibb was at our softball game.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I just ran into him. When I was leaving yesterday, he was coming in.
Yeah.
And so he's like, hey, Bull. And I was like, oh, hey. So we started chatting and got to know each other a little bit. He was very nice. He said, I can't play softball with Jay. Jay takes it way too. No, he didn't say that. I'm just kidding. He didn't
I
say
wouldn't
that
have
at all.
doubted if he did say it, though.
I didn't say
Hey,
that.
bro.
But I didn't realize that he has spent his entire career only working in Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
It really is.
He started in Toledo.
Yeah, he
He
went
said
to Bowling
Toledo.
Green.
Went to Bowling
That's
Green.
where he
and
got
then
his
He
education.
told me his first job.
I
he
think
said
it
Toledo.
was it Lima or maybe it was Toledo.
I'm pretty sure he said Toledo. Now I can't remember.
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
you might be right. I
And then
think you might be
Columbus, and then he's been in Cleveland
And
forever.
that's it.
amazing.
Now he's been at 3 and 5. He's kind of bounced back and forth
yeah.
between the two of us, but he's my favorite person to talk to in the newsroom.
so nice.
And I can't just bump into him and have it be a hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
Because he's such a fascinating conversationalist
Yeah.
that he always says something that makes me think. He's just he is
It was very nice.
Wonderful person.
He was telling me about his family. It was very, very interesting.
My grandmother died when she was 90 a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And this just goes to show you, she was watching Leon Bibb decades ago.
Well, I think he's been on the air. I think we just celebrated 50 years on the air or
this-
something like that with
this-
Leon Bibb. And we asked him, what's your favorite story? And if you guys haven't seen this, I'm sure it's on the KYC website. Listen to this story. I can't remember the address. I just think it was somewhere in East Cleveland. Can't remember the address. He gets a call from a clerk at a convenience store. That's how popular Leon Bibb was. Everybody knew Leon Bibb was the best reporter in town. She calls him. She says, Leon, I don't know what's going on, but there are kids coming in on their bikes with $100 bills, plural, many of them. I don't know where they got it. Leon jumps in the news van, races up to the convenience store, and there are kids with pockets full of $100 bills. And they're buying candy with it.
Earl, why was you doing that?
No, listen, this is the best story you'll
Yeah.
hear today.
Yeah.
Leon says to one of the kids,
Yeah.
where'd you get that money? He goes, I can show you, mister. And he said, put your bike in my van and take me to it. He said, today I'd get arrested for saying that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, straight
So he
face.
said the little kid, they opened the news van, the little
Yeah.
kid put his bike in,
Yeah.
and he said, go up here, take a right,
Yeah.
go down this street. Okay, now at the stop sign, go left. And he said, come to a house, and there's more money on the ground than you can count.
Oh my
And,
God.
and people are picking it up and putting it wherever they can. The name of the story was called The Money House. So here was the origins of the story. Cleveland, once upon a time, was one of the wealthiest cities in the country, and it had some of the wealthiest people.
When was this? Like what time frame?
Well, the story was in the 80s.
Okay.
But I'm going back to like the turn of the century.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
When
Mafia game.
And the railroad folks, and
Yeah,
there
sure.
were, like, if you go into Shaker Heights and what's the other suburb over there?
Shaker's still good.
But the beautiful homes, the best architecture of its day.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this home had fallen into disrepair. Once upon a time, it was a beautiful mansion. Fallen into disrepair, had been rented for the last 10 years by a myriad of different families. Finally, it had to be knocked down. In the process of demolition, money was coming out of the rafter, out of the 2x4 studs in the house.
What?
Every time they'd hit it, money would fly everywhere. And they estimated that they had tracked it back to the original owner.
Yeah.
Was a multi-millionaire. Didn't trust banks. Now remember, if you lived through the 1929 depression, you know, the stock market crash of 29 and then the depression of the 30s, which this person clearly did, there was a distrust in banks like we don't know. People would refuse to put their money in banks because so many folks lost everything they had when Wall Street crashed.
So that was the version of
the money was in the house. He was hiding it in different spots in the house. Now imagine this. Imagine you were one of the lower socioeconomic families that were renting that house. And every night when you put your head on your pillow, there were millions of dollars around you and you didn't even know it.
Oh, my gosh.
And they only came out when they knocked the house down.
That is
Leon tells
crazy.
the story far better than I do, but it was just incredible.
So they schemed. So the kids was getting the money.
Kids were getting the money.
And
Founders keepers.
At that point, did they eventually wipe all the money out?
I imagine that it was eventually all claimed.
I got to ask him about that
but
next time I see him.
He tells it way better than
Yeah.
I do. Leon's a great
Hey,
storyteller.
Jay, real quick, great story. A lot of people don't know East Cleveland was Cleveland's first real suburb. And to see where it is right now, like, it's kind of crazy. So
It
to
is
hear this
crazy.
story about, like, the money coming out, like, that don't surprise me at all.
Saw a documentary on East Cleveland. Didn't even know that was a whole city.
Oh, East Cleveland right now. Oh, my goodness.
Oh man, the
corruption.
the bandos.
The cops that have been indicted and fired and the public officials, it's just a mess. Okay, Mike.
A lot to get to today. We're going to start with one of my favorite offseason topics of the year. First, a word from FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl season to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like the UCSS squad, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. And FanDuel is the place to make those bets, and they're determined to help you end football season with not just one W, but 2 or 3 or hopefully many, many more. Not only can you bet on the winner of Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Today, new customers get $200 in bonus bets. That is $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook of the NFL. And today's winning ticket comes from Pickle Nick, who turned $1 into $367.56 with a 14-part same-game parlay in Saturday's Lakers versus Warriors game. $1 into $367.56. We got so many tickets over the weekend, we finally had to put together a spreadsheet to better track the winning tickets.
Man, wow.
So if you're one of, like, the 35 people who sent us in, we're going to try to get to them all. If we don't, we apologize. But now we have a system so we don't miss any
Nice,
future
I like
tickets.
that.
So we have updated here. But shout out to Pickle Nick. We'll give you another winning ticket here in the next hour.
Before we dive into the topic, this is FanDuel related. We did a story yesterday at 5 o'clock on Channel 3 about how much money was wagered in Ohio in its first full year of sports betting. And the number, I had guessed the number. I knew it was, I read the headline, and before I clicked into the story, I guessed the number. And I said, I bet it's $5 billion. It was $7.5 billion. Wow. Was wagered.
How did that compare
on
to other
sporting
states,
events.
do you know?
I don't know, Bill.
Yeah, I'm
I should have
curious.
looked. That's a good
That's
question.
I bet you it's on the higher end per capita, certainly.
I would, yes, per
Yeah.
capita for
Yeah.
sure. I remember the Michigan number in its first year was not that big.
Right.
But here's what blows my mind, guys. Ohioans had $7.5 billion of disposable income?
Selective morality.
Or do they?
They don't. Some
Yeah.
people don't. Hey, some people drink 40 ounces every hour. They got to have that Miller Lite. They got to have that Tall Boy. But guess what? That means they ain't going to have either electric or food, but they gonna take care of that vice.
No, that's true.
But
the tax take for Ohio,
some of it's probably
massive.
a lot. Some of it's rich people that have that money.
Yeah, probably.
Some of it, but
yeah, I would hope, man.
By the way, breaking news: the final coaching spot has been filled. Dan Quinn is the new coach of the Commanders.
Okay.
Who was the Cowboys DC?
Does that surprise any of you guys that he got that?
Nah, had been talk.
I
about
thought he
him
was
being
going to
one
go.
of the
I thought
guys.
he'd end up in Seattle.
And
when he didn't, I figured that
these hires are all underwhelming. I have not seen a hire where if I was in that fan base, I'm like, oh wow, Dan Quinn.
Well, Washington was waiting for Ben Johnson, and when he said no, this is definitely Plan B.
I was really surprised that Ben Johnson
Definitely Plan B.
pulled his name from both.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can talk about the trends. We'll do this quickly because I know we're waiting to get into this, but there's always a trend that emerges with that year's class of incoming coaches.
Yeah.
Do we think that it's more coaches getting a second chance? Are they going back to that well now?
It's a mix.
It feels like a mix to me because there are some first timers.
Right. I mean, but you think about like the biggest names. None of those guys. Belichick didn't get a job.
Carroll
didn't get a job. Carroll, we didn't even. I mean, maybe he wasn't interested. Carroll, I don't know.
I think he wants to keep coaching, but
he wasn't mentioned at all.
No.
Nick Saban, obviously. I don't know if he had.
I was kind of the impression I said on the show because we have a very good mutual friend. He didn't tell me this definitively, like I heard this from Mike's mouth, but I know they've had in-depth discussions about his future, and he was saying Mike's going to take a year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Which makes sense for him. I mean, somebody will hire him.
It makes perfect sense for him because he's probably watching with a very sharp eye what happens in Columbus if he wants to go back that route and go to college.
He'll have his pick of jobs next cycle.
I agree
College
with
or pro, whatever he wants.
I agree with that. I think he will.
But it is a mix because this is a second chance for Dan Quinn. Obviously, Raheem Morris was a coach once before.
And it did seem to me like the trend was they were going with not no-name first-timers, but first-timers that had a very short track record of being a coordinator.
That's true.
And now it seems like maybe they're saying, let's go back to the experienced well, and maybe, like Bill Belichick and so many others, Pete Carroll, they'll get it right the second time around. Pete Carroll, first time around, was a terrible NFL coach.
He was.
Terrible. And Bill Belichick obviously had some success, but it was mixed. I think he figured it out the second time around. And so we'll see.
That's
you learn. Well, we mentioned FanDuel a second ago. Let's start with it's always the first look-ahead topic that comes before the Super Bowl. The week before the Super Bowl, all the sportsbooks put out there 2025, or I guess in this case, the next year's Super Bowl odds before the Super Bowl is played.
Super Bowl 59.
Exactly, which will be next year's Super Bowl. And obviously, there's a million things that'll change in all these teams before we know. But the Browns opened up on FanDuel at 50-1 odds to win next year's Super Bowl. That is tied for the 18th best odds in all of football, tied with Atlanta and Indianapolis. It's the third best odds in the AFC North. They're well behind Cincinnati and Baltimore, way ahead of Pittsburgh. The 10th best odds in the AFC, which could be a little bit surprising. On other sports books, the Browns are much shorter odds. They were 35-1 on BetRivers. So
they opened 50-1 because I thought yesterday you said
they opened 30-1. They're now to 50-1.
Okay,
yeah,
that's significant.
Sorry. They were 30-1.
I'll say why.
Now they're 50-1. Yeah. But as of this morning, 10 a.m., the final check, they were 50-1 odds. Other sportsbook had them around 35-1. But we're a FanDuel show, so we use FanDuel. So if you're going to bet, use FanDuel. Bigger payout if you like the Browns. Do you feel like that's a little underselling the Browns prospects heading into next year?
Here are the AFC teams that have shorter odds than the Browns. We'll just do AFC because it's hard to compare odds between conferences because the NFC is weaker. So some teams that may be not as good might have better odds because it's a little easier to get in.
Yeah.
So the AFC, here's the order.
There are 9 teams with better odds, right?
The Chiefs are plus 750. The Ravens are plus 900. The Bills are plus 1,200. The Bengals are plus 1,500. The Dolphins are plus 2,000. The Texans are plus 2,500. The Jaguars, Jets, and Chargers are plus 3,000. And then the Browns, tied with, as Mike said, the Colts.
What do you make of that?
At plus 5,000. I'm a little surprised. I think where BetRivers has them is better. I think it makes sense that they should be about 30-1.
Well, the money moved this number, clearly.
I guess, but how much money? Mike, are you sure you didn't look at the wrong book initially?
No, I'm 100%. I have the screenshot on my desk from yesterday.
Because it changed that much in
that's
one
money.
day.
That's money that moves it that much.
How many people are betting on the Super Bowl in the first day?
That's the day to do it.
Yeah, I guess.
If you're going to take a shot, on a team, the first day that odd is established and that bet is available.
But you would think if people bet on the Browns, the odds would go the opposite direction.
People are not betting on the Browns.
I see what you're saying.
I'm a little.
That's what I'm saying. So the money is moved by the people. Once the line is established, that number moves based on. Now, clearly, it's almost a futile effort to talk about it.
Yeah, but just
we don't know what's going on. We're talking about it because we have it. I get that, but like that number will continue to change after the free agent signings, after the draft. Anything like that can also move it. But I'm shocked, Bull, that it moved that much.
Yeah,
that means there's a lot of people out there that do not think much of the Cleveland Browns.
Well, and it has to do ultimately, and the thing that's not going to change for the Browns is that there's a lot of people that don't know what to expect or don't expect a lot from Deshaun Watson. And that's what the odds tell me. Now, that doesn't mean they're right.
I'm leaning more on your first part of that.
Yeah.
We don't know what to expect.
The odds tell me, what that tells me is people think the Browns is fool's gold.
Well, that too. They think they were an anomaly this year.
You had a nice couple
is at
records.
40-1.
Yeah, right.
I mean, really? And look, they almost beat the Browns on a Hail Mary last year.
So look at this. You got Chicago. If they bring What's-the-name back, if they bring Fields back, they got DJ Moore. They got, now you got they're going to have 2 top 5 picks.
They are. That's probably why they're rated so high.
They could be like, let me get Marvin Harrison Jr. and let me go get the best available player.
And they could, if they keep Justin Fields, they could trade one of those picks and get more first round
get 2 more first
whatever.
I think that's what they're going to do.
Right. If you're keeping Fields, you might as well trade the first overall pick.
Right.
Because somebody will trade up for a quarterback and give you even more.
I just think people, once you start to look at, once the Kool-Aid wears off, right? Even I don't drink Kool-Aid 3 times a week in the offseason. It's just bad for your health, bad for your teeth too. You got to be realistic. You got to start looking at this roster and skimming through it. I'm like, well, do I really like this offense more than I like this team? No. And then you got to take into consideration, well, C.J. Stroud and them just beat you last year with a bunch of, and they didn't have a lot of people playing.
True.
So how high are you going to put the Browns over other people? You take a look at the Jets. The Jets got Breece Hall. The Jets got Garrett Wilson.
Their number is what it is because of Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers coming back, and they had a good defense. So,
but Aaron Rodgers is 40 too, and coming off an Achilles injury.
But he has a track record.
He does. His most recent success is more recent than Deshaun Watson.
That's true. I didn't look at it that way. You're right.
Who do you trust more to have a better season, Aaron Rodgers or Watson?
I'd have to say Rodgers.
Yeah, sadly,
I'd rather have Watson because if he does bounce back, I got more years with him.
Exactly. If you're saying which one would you take for next year only, I would take Aaron Rodgers. If you're saying the next 3, he'll be 42 in 3 years. Now look, Tom Brady, if he proved nothing else, proved that you can still win a Super Bowl at 45 years old.
True, but he didn't come off.
He's the outlier.
He didn't tear his Achilles at 39.
No, but he did win a Super Bowl after coming back from a torn ACL, but he was much younger.
The Colts thing is interesting. The Colts is that means they really like Anthony Richardson.
They love Anthony Richardson.
Yes. They got Pittman. I don't know why they would let Pittman roll.
I wouldn't.
You need they got Downs and Pittman, 2 young guys that can really be good tight end or good receivers. You got Richardson. You got 2 crazy backs. You got Taylor and Moss.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Especially, we had the Bills writer on yesterday. He said the Bills made a conscious effort to make sure they had veteran receivers around Josh Allen when he was a rookie. Essentially, Anthony Richardson will be a rookie next year.
Yeah, I mean, I would think I'd be very surprised if Pittman's not.
Hey, Bills, if you want, let me tell you something, Bills. You can't just let Josh Allen run out here. You guys are delusional if you think that you got enough weapons for Josh Allen. I would be over there. I would go give me 2 more receivers. They got Kincaid. They got Knox. The tight ends is good. They got Cook and running back. But you got Stephon Diggs. That's it. Give me another dude. And
Gabe Davis is still under contract, right, or not?
No, Gabe Davis is a free agent.
Oh, wow.
I'm not a believer in Gabriel Davis.
You never have
he
been?
hasn't been great.
Nah,
he had one big game in a big game.
Yes, and that kind of put his name
off that. Yeah.
I would, if I'm ranking the AFC teams for me in the chances of getting to the Super Bowl, I'd have the Browns higher than 10th in the AFC, but I'd have them closer to 10 than I would to 1.
So last year they were essentially 5th, right? I mean, they were the best wild card.
Yes.
Oh,
they were the 5th seed
after the season.
So last year they were 5th. it's hard for me to get my mind around the idea that in 1 year, without losing any major pieces, right, they're going to go from 5th to 10th.
It happens all the time.
You know what? I'm not a bettor, but I have a friend who's kind of like a professional bettor. He bets way too much. He always told me, don't be fooled by preseason lines and like when you place those bets at the beginning. He said Yankees odds are always going to be much better than they should be.
Right, because
same with Chicago. Well, it's the number of people betting on them. Remember,
right,
no fan base in sports is bigger than the Yankees fan base in baseball. So they're all going to bet on their team to win, and that's going to make the odds. It's going to skew the odds. In Cleveland, so Chicago is a much bigger city than Cleveland.
I don't know, but the Giants, I think, have the worst odds of anybody.
Well, Giants fans are unlike Yankee fans. I do think they're the same person, typically, but the Giants fans, I think, are more negative towards their team than Yankee fans are. Yankee fans are so obnoxious to me just because, I mean, they always think, even if it's August and they're 8 games out, they still tell you they're going to win the World Series.
One thing I will say about Yankee fans, to be fair, is that every fan base of a team that always wins is obnoxious.
That's true.
Ohio State fans can be like that.
We are an obnoxious
Laker fans are like that.
Yeah.
Patriots fans are like that.
And it gets even worse when they're losing.
What's funny is when I was a kid in the 80s, the Mets were much better than the Yankees in the 80s.
Mid-80s.
Which is the only decade that the Mets have been better than the Yankees. And Met fans were way more obnoxious when I was a kid than Yankee fans. Well, I hated the Mets more than I hated the Yankees.
Do you think it was because they finally had their chance to roar and they were sticking it in the Yankees' faces?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, I mean, listen, could the Browns go from the 5th team? And they're really better than that because they didn't have the 5th best record. They had the second best record.
I think
right?
they're third, weren't they?
Third.
Tied.
Whatever. But we see it all the time. Teams go from the 3rd team to the 10th, from the 10th to the 3rd. It happens all the time. Doesn't mean it's going to happen to the Browns, but it's not unusual.
And I can understand why they put them at that ranking because look how many people was hurt. Like, the Bengals will be different. The Jets will be different.
Well, we had a lot of people hurt, too.
We did. But
our quarterback.
But here's the thing. They already valued those quarterbacks over ours to begin with.
That's true.
Like, so Justin Herbert, they're going to be better. People think Harbaugh's going to do the job.
I'm surprised the Chargers are so low. If I was going to place a bet, it would be on the Chargers. You've got a quarterback or a coach now that's won at every level. He's taken a team to the Super Bowl in the NFL. He's coming off a college football national championship. He's got a premier quarterback, and I like the defense there too. It's surprising to me how poorly they performed.
But considering how bad they were, their odds aren't too bad. I mean, I think
where are they? They were with us, right?
No, they were like 30-1, I think. Let me see. Let me double check that.
I got it up.
That's worth a flyer.
Chargers were plus 3,000.
That's worth a $100 flyer to me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Chargers, and I actually think the Chargers and the Browns are good bets at their price.
I do. I think the Browns are good.
That was my next question. I mean, obviously this will change, and a million things are going to impact this before the season comes around. But at 50-1, it feels like a pretty good flyer price for a team that overcame immense amounts of adversity last season. And 50-1, if you simulate the season 50 times, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion the Browns cannot win one. Like, I feel like those odds are pretty good if you're eyeing the Browns heading into next season.
As constituted. No.
Well, I mean, but we don't know how anything's going to play out here, G. Like,
well,
there's a million different
you know
variables.
what? This bet, you're really betting on Andrew Berry. That's what you're doing. If you believe in Andrew Berry.
I disagree. I think you're betting on Deshaun Watson.
Well, no, that's the elephant in the room, of course. I mean, we all agree if Deshaun Watson doesn't become Houston Deshaun, we have a problem. However, if you are of the mindset that he will return to some semblance of that, and we saw it in his last half of football, then you're ultimately betting on Andrew Berry. Can he sprinkle in the pieces that Deshaun needs to find that success?
Let me ask y'all a question. Now, listen, people, first of all, it's the off season, so this is what we do for a living is speculate and talk about different things. So shut up in the chat. Don't be talking about, oh my gosh, why would you act like that? You just do it just because you're stirring the pot. That's what we do for a living.
What are we stirring the pot about?
Listen,
You just mocked the chat. That might be the first time I've ever seen you do that.
Wait, what are they saying we're stirring the chat on? This is
well, no. Here, when we do shows and we in the off season, we speculate on the future. We're like stockbrokers. We're futures. We trade up, trade down. This is what we do for a living.
And it's just opinion, folks.
Yes, it's not like it's written in stone. People get all ruffled feathers because they went, oh my God. So,
fans are so sensitive.
Can the Browns be the GameStop stock here?
So if you got like and it's a two-part kind of question, but based on what y'all answer. If the Browns say win 8 games next year, why your eyes?
His eyes got that big.
That's a disaster.
8 games.
Yeah.
What does that mean for Andrew Berry and Stefanski?
Oh, that's not good.
Well, neither one's gotten an extension.
Okay, so
which is still bizarre
If they
to
win
me.
8 games next year, I would assume they're getting fired. Which I mean,
Do you think that they'll go into the season either or both without an extension?
they shouldn't, but right
I
now it
can't-
feels like they will.
I haven't
It's-
heard nothing on that front.
Yeah.
No.
0. And so the second part of that question is that should motivate or should be the guiding light for Andrew Berry this offseason. If there was ever a time you wanted to go all out, I'd do it just so I could sign that paperwork and get me 3-4 more years.
But think about this for a second. If you don't extend Berry, and especially Berry, although I guess we don't know, it's not like a coach's contract. I don't know if we know for sure he had the same length of contract as Stefanski.
I would assume.
I just assume.
You would think that they would line up.
Yeah.
You're right. Think about it from this perspective.
But that is an assumption. You're right.
right. But think about it for this. Let's say this is Andrew Berry's last year on the contract, and they don't extend him.
Yeah.
If you're Andrew Berry and you think your job's on the line this year, you may make moves that benefit the team in the short term but hurt them in the long term because you're
just
like, I got to
saving your
save my
skin.
job
Yes.
here, which I get, but you don't want that to be the situation.
Do you think there are safeguards in the system to prevent that? In other words,
Well-
maybe it's Paul DePodesta, maybe it's Jimmy Haslam. They might look at that and say, look, Andrew, I see what you're doing. You're thinking about 2024. I'm thinking about 5, 6, 7, and 8. We can't make that move.
Yeah,
That's good for
sure.
us in the
Ultimately,
short
they're
term.
the boss. He's the
So-
boss, right?
So there are safeguards that could
right.
keep him from
but
making
Jimmy
moves.
might
said
not
that?
know any better.
Jimmy said that?
No, I'm just saying.
Hey, I think Jimmy is the person. Somebody has to save himself from short term.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fair.
in the past you have been exactly right, but I also want there is a tipping point where you are all in on 1 year to the detriment of the next year.
I think this is that year.
Jimmy's going to be here in 25.
Yeah,
I would
I
say
think
this
it's that
about
year.
the Browns, though, and I think you guys may disagree, but I do believe this. If Deshaun Watson, I hate saying this because we said it so many times, I'm kind of sick of saying it, but if he plays like the guy in Houston,
Yeah.
they can win as is.
Yes.
Bull, absolutely.
I believe that. Okay, I
because
thought
his
you guys might
talent
disagree.
around him here is better than what it was in Houston.
It's not as good as it could be, but it's good enough if he's that guy.
They
if
can
he's
repeat
that
their
guy.
win total from last year.
Because
I'll go
Amari
that
Cooper
far.
is way better. Now, listen, he had DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure.
Right? But his last year he did not.
DeAndre Hopkins at that point was better
Better than Amari Cooper, right? But he didn't have anybody like Njoku. He didn't have a tight end that good.
Not
But
that
he,
good.
but he had Brandon Cooks, who was fast. He had he was a kid. Will Fuller was fast as hell.
Did he have
Yeah.
Cooks and Hopkins together?
I think he did.
Or was it
He did. He had
one
all-
year that
he
he had
had
it?
all-
At least 1 year.
Like that receiving core,
But he had a terrible offensive line.
right?
And he had no running game. In theory, he's going to have a good offensive line. In theory. And he's going to have a good running
Can I
game.
tell,
if
can I
Nick
tell
Chubb
you
is
what he
back.
said about Patrick Mahomes? Now people will make it seem like I said he was scared of Patrick Mahomes. He said when he was talking to Quincy Avery, he said, listen, they were talking about the game between the Ravens and the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Yeah. Oh, he did another one this week?
I was watching it. I think he might have had another one. He was like, listen.
I think it was part of the same one.
Okay.
I think.
It might
Was
be.
he talking about the game that had happened
Yes.
already?
So he said,
Gee, don't take my overtime quote here.
he said,
Oh.
if you
No, he's talking about Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah, he said
oh, never mind.
if Patrick Mahomes, when you playing the Chiefs, he said, I trust me, I done played him a lot of times. When you get in that red zone, you better score.
You're not going to beat him with field goals.
Because if you can't get no touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes is going to get the ball and you're losing. It just is what you will lose. You cannot beat him and I said, dang, man,
He's right.
he understands the climate.
he ain't taking the points.
Yeah, listen, hey, he understands
You can't in that
the
situation.
magnitude of it, and this is why I want to let people know: if you have any hope of beating Patrick Mahomes and you want to go to the Super Bowl, you cannot say we think we good enough to just do X, Y. No, that's not good enough.
You need touchdowns.
You need a bona fide stud squad where you stack.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying it wouldn't give them a better chance.
Yes, okay.
I'm saying if he's that guy, they can win as is. Now,
I agree.
That wouldn't encourage me to not get another receiver.
You can't stand pat with that.
No, but I'm saying I do believe they are good enough as is, but I still want to get better. It's never good enough.
I'll say this: they're good enough to make the playoffs as is.
Yes.
They're not good enough to win a Super Bowl.
I think they could. I just think their
see that
odds
happening.
are very.
I don't see
5%?
that happening.
No, even lower than that.
Okay.
And by the way, on the take the points thing, there's a difference in taking points when you're up 24-10 and down 24-10.
Yeah.
I hear you. I
didn't make that distinction the other day. Like, if the score was reversed, oh, hell, I'm going for it.
I hear you.
I have to.
I just don't even like the term taking the points because that assumes that the field goal is always going to be made, which is completely unfair.
It's also when you're going for it on fourth down, you're also assuming that you're going to eventually keep the sticks going and score a touchdown.
No, but the people
that's a bigger assumption.
The people that argue that you should take the points argue it as if the points are guaranteed and the fourth down is a question mark. The fourth down is a question mark, but so is the field goal.
Right, but I think the part of the argument you're not factoring in is, okay, you say take the points, you could miss. Even if you convert on that fourth down, there's no points assured in that. Okay, so you won that play.
Right.
You still have to keep moving the sticks and score.
But if you had gotten the first down on third down, you would never think, why would we not keep going? If you have a chance to keep
this
going,
is what we call in philosophy a circular argument.
No, that is. You're right.
Guys, starting tomorrow night, our brand of Ultimate Shows launches off. The first ever spin-off Ultimate Cavs show is tomorrow night, myself and Jason Lloyd. About 35 minutes on Cavs and Cavs only. G. Bush is the host of the Ultimate Brown show. That'll be twice a week. 30 minutes extra Monday and Fridays. The barbershop has ended on UCSS, but that's transforming into the Ultimate Brown show. Ultimate 216 with Earl the Pearl is coming to you once a week as well. I have an Ultimate Guardian show. 30 minutes of team-specific coverage. And Earl's show 216 is a little culture sports combo. But the first one launches tomorrow night, 5 o'clock on the UCSS YouTube channel. Me and Jason Lloyd talking all things Cavs.
I think that's going to be a great listen.
Should be fun.
Because
yeah, it will.
Your basketball mind is A+. I think Jason Lloyd's basketball mind is an A+. I learned something from both of you guys just about every time you talk about basketball. I think for Cavs fans, that is going to become absolute mandatory viewing.
And G Show's going to be awesome.
They're
Earl's
all
Show's
gonna
going to
be
be awesome. Yeah, they're all going to be great.
Yeah.
So we're really excited, and those will be, I think they launch tomorrow's the first one, then it's every day of the week for the rest of the year is how it's scheduled out.
The Ultimate Cleveland Sports Network continues to grow.
And maybe one day we'll get to an Ultimate Draft show when we get there. But right now the Senior Bowl is going on down in Mobile. The Browns will have a first-round pick, so it's kind of changed a little bit how we look at the Senior Bowl and analyze some of the players. But G. Bush, I know you're in the lab constantly watching these guys. Bull, you're not as invested in the Senior Bowl as before. Jay, you said you watch it differently than before. So
I did watch it differently.
We have different perspectives from the panel. G, you want to start? What are your big takeaways from the Senior Bowl so far, even though the Browns don't have a pick?
I was looking at the receivers, from Georgia, Ladd McConkey, and Roman Wilson from Michigan. Yep. Now, Roman Wilson, he been getting a lot of separation on these dudes.
He's pesky.
Yeah, he is.
I like him a lot.
He is.
But will he be around?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
We'd have to trade up to get him.
And that's the thing that hurts a little bit because when I'm looking at these positions and some of these receivers in the Senior Bowl, they're not around. They're not very really there. There's another guy that's really standing out too, is the kid from Toledo. They talking about this kid from Toledo being the first corner off the board. This guy, he's just a monster. Like he plays press coverage, long, athletic. He's one of those corners that Seattle made famous, and he's from Toledo. He's going to be a first-round pick. You look at overall with the Senior Bowl, and another guy, Penix. Penix has been showing up. He has a strong arm. I thought his stock was going to drop a little bit. I just think that they couldn't do nothing with Michigan up front. Michigan just had a better game plan, better coached. But Penix is a guy that's moving up a little bit. A lot of people really like this next Blake Corum. A lot of people like Blake Corum. People have been saying like he's the typical Cleveland Browns type running back. He's not really a fast guy, but he's a dude that could break tackles. He got better feet than people thought. Can catch the football a little bit, and he just always moves forward. So people like him as a goal line back. So Michigan is moving around doing their thing a little bit. And for me, I hadn't really taken a look at the linemen. there's because we got a stockpile. We got like 5 or 6 guys. We got to make a decision. But this guy from this edge rusher, Lelu Tutu or something. That's his name.
From UCLA.
This man, hey, if I could have a first-round pick, boy, I would go get that man in a heartbeat. Now, this is an actual pass rusher, not none of them fake pass rushers. He got moves. He can bend, got good speed and explosion off the line. He's another dude that I've been watching a lot, too.
By the way, they for what it's worth, I just brought up CBS Sports' mock draft. They have 6 wide receivers going in the first round, including one guy you mentioned late in the first round, that lad McConkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have him going 31st to the Chiefs.
Hey, his route running.
The Chiefs are another one that they need one.
They have
his route running is crazy.
See, that's the pain of not having a first-round pick, guys.
They have the Bills taking a wide receiver at 28. They have the Bengals taking a wide receiver.
Oh, that's interesting.
At 18, they have.
What is Boyd's situation?
He's a free agent.
He is a free agent, so it's possible, unlikely, but it is possible they lose both.
Yeah, my thought is, what I think ultimately is going to happen is they're gonna franchise tag T. Higgins and trade him, which means he wouldn't end up on the Browns because they wouldn't trade him to the Browns.
No, I wouldn't think.
I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Why wouldn't they just? Why would they? Why? I don't understand that.
Well, you can't trade him if he's not signed.
Right,
but why would they trade him?
Well, if they think they can get assets, more pieces.
Right. As opposed to just getting nothing.
So here's for example, we've seen this happen with wide receivers in the past, and we keep saying, wait a minute, why is Tennessee giving up on an all-world wide receiver? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
I think for a moment there was the thought in the NFL that, well, we'll just go draft the next guy. And I'm wondering, because that's been the thought at running back forever.
This is a little different in this situation because he's their number 2 wide receiver.
Why don't
not
they
their
just
number 1.
But he will be someone's number 1, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why don't they just franchise him twice?
Well, I would.
That's what I would do.
I would, but what would the money be on a franchise tag for wide receiver for next year? It's big.
I think it's like 17, 18 million.
Oh, I was going to guess 20. Maybe I'm wrong.
Even if it is.
Just shy of, it was 19.75.
Yeah, that's where I would have guessed.
I could be wrong. They may just, like, the Bengals don't make a lot of trades.
What do you think about the new, is there a different philosophy in the Bengals regime? You follow them closer than we do. The mindset with the Bengals, going back to Carson Palmer, hell, going back even before Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
They just didn't pay guys.
They just paid Burrow, though.
I know, well, Burrow is an exception.
Yeah.
Burrow is a generational player.
Yeah.
Had they not signed long-term Joe Burrow,
yeah, right, then.
Now, I'm wondering if the bean counters with the Bengals didn't say, look, we can do Burrow, but we can't do Burrow and Higgins.
Well,
I don't know.
I think my feeling is they'll sign Chase to an extension, but not Higgins.
And
they
that's
could
the right
pay
move.
both, but I think they'll only pay Chase. And
I think that's
the
way they
listen,
operate.
For years, I was super critical of the way the Bengals did business.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's perfect because I think ultimately they don't spend as much as they should. But they've made a lot of smart decisions in recent years.
They've got a lot of things
on letting guys walk. They've re-signed most of their important players. Now, I don't like letting Higgins go, but of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, he's the least important of the 3. And
Without
so
question.
ultimately, if you have to let one go, you let him go. But I don't love it.
So let me give you this, man. I always go.
And they think that they think they've drafted guys that could replace him.
Let me get to this. Like, I think I make the analogy, and we always talk about it. You know, there's superpowers in the world. First of all, it's only the United States, but then you got rivals like China and Russia, right? And so the United States spends billions and more than every other country combined. And people say, we need to get rid of that. Military spending, what, we doing too much?
Well, not anymore. We're behind China, significantly behind China.
Well, here's the thing. When I read this thing, they said United States can win a war. Everybody in the world versus the United States. The United States could fight on every front.
How long ago was that?
I'm going to send it to you. It's devastating.
Send it to me because I read a terrifying report yesterday that was exactly the opposite of that.
It's a guy he is a special ops guy from the UK. And he said, based upon his intel, because he's like their version of the Navy
what we
SEAL.
have versus what other
yes.
have.
And he was telling them, you go. So here's the reason. I'll get to my point.
Yeah.
The reason why the people should go out and make sure that they have weapons is not because is like frugal or they just want their team to be better. It's the opportunity cost that other teams have. So if I have a quarterback and all things are equal, right? Other teams have great quarterbacks. Like, what is the domino effect of letting T. Higgins walk?
Yeah,
and
ultimately,
then
I
walk
think
right to the Browns and go to Deshaun Watson. You're like, well, hold on.
Again, I don't think I think if he goes, they're going to trade him. So I don't think he's going to end up with the Browns ultimately. I don't like the idea of them letting him go.
Well,
but
I
get what you're saying. It's a good point.
The Bulls' plan, though, is playing chess and not checkers, and here's why. If you let T. Higgins hit the open market, he's coming to Cleveland.
Yeah, right.
Be sure of that. If you don't and you sign him, now you can trade him to Seattle.
You
can do whatever you want.
Right.
Go play for the Cardinals.
And there is value, obviously. There's strength by addition or subtraction by addition by subtraction. They would look at it as, we're not going to sign him. We're not going to keep him long term. We can't afford that. However, we don't want him showing up in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or Cleveland. So we're going to sign him, and we're going to send him where we want him.
Yeah, that's better than letting him become a free agent. I still don't like it. I would like them.
And it's a game of chicken because what if Cleveland gives you the best offer?
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, I just think that in the end, what made the Bengals able, the only team that's been able to beat Mahomes, or the only active,
quarterback
to beat Mahomes, part of it is Burrow. Obviously, he's a great player, but part of it is that they have two. They have Jamar Chase is one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in football, and then another guy who's top 15. They're one of the few teams that have that.
They lose a lot of mojo if Higgins is not in a Bengals uniform.
Jay, back to the topic at hand here. How have you watched the Senior Bowl this week?
So I was on the treadmill yesterday, and I thought there was something wrong with ESPN's feed because they were just letting that sound in. There was nobody talking over it.
That's weird.
Which was
interesting.
Did you like it? What's that?
Did you enjoy that?
I learned more.
I was going to say, it kind of sounds good.
I learned more, and here's why. The portion that I was watching were the one-on-ones with offensive tackles and defensive ends. And you could hear the coaches and yelling the instructions at both of the players.
Oh, I love that.
It was fascinating. And I'm glad whoever's decision it was at ESPN to let that coverage breathe and not put Mel Kiper and Ryan Clark talking over it. It was a brilliant move. I would have watched more of it because I was learning more about each individual player. Now, the one thing that was missing was the context as to exactly who we were looking at. So I thought what they could have used was a traffic cop saying, okay, this is Alabama's left tackle and this is Texas A&M's defensive end, and give me some names. Because I was just looking at
helmets.
Helmets and uniforms. And obviously, I'm not a college scout, and I'm not an NFL scout, so I don't know these names. I don't know. Now, many of them I would have recognized if I was told who they were. But it was really interesting. Now, the other way that I watched it differently is most years I was dialed in to this. And some years I was involved in the coverage, so I was really deep diving on all the college players that were out there. But because the Browns have such an insignificant pick, I can't invest like I used to. Like when it was the 1 or the 3 or the 5, man, I studied the draft as much as anybody. Well, but now I'm just like, hell, they're going to take 50th pick or whatever it is.
54.
54? Like, I just can't get
For
interested.
much of the last, I'll say since I've been covering the team for 14 years, we were not only talking about the Senior Bowl and the Combine and the draft, we were talking about the draft in November. That's not an exaggeration.
No, that's
I mean, how many years have we talked Browns draft in November?
No, you're
because
right.
they had a first-round pick or many times multiple first-round picks, and they were awful, so it wasn't worth talking about the roster or the team currently.
And we paid more attention to college football, too, to see what the quarterbacks were doing.
Absolutely. But now, as you say, it could change if the Browns trade up.
Right.
We've talked about this. Greg Newsome could be a very interesting guy that they could combine with a pick to move up.
Aren't those trade-ups usually draft day or draft week?
Sure, often.
And then I would really dive in.
In the second round, in the second and third rounds, those trades usually happen during the round. But the first round trades happen if there's a massive one, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns aren't trading up to a top 10 pick.
No, they'd have to give up too much. But I think they could trade up to get into the end of the first round.
Sure.
And you'd have to give up picks, and they would be second and third rounders. But, gosh, I just watch it differently. I'm not as into
not
the
as
draft
locked in because you know that the players being focused on are guys that are probably not going to end up on the Browns.
Exactly.
You're at a different point in your life, though.
Yeah.
Like the life process of the Cleveland Browns is when we were all 99 came up, we trying to figure it out. We trying to put some studs and foundation pieces. We just trying to hit it right. We just trying to make sure we can get a guy that can play. Now we whiff on those guys, and you get to a point where you say, okay, let's mortgage some of these picks because we ain't good at them anyway to get guys that we can play right now. It's what happens when you get a Watson. What happens when you want to go out and get Amari Cooper and guys like that. But now you're at a position in your life where it's like, am I going to go home and play video games for 10 hours? No, I ain't got the time to do it. The Browns ain't got the time to be talking about no 3rd and 4th round picks. Like, fans ain't excited about those guys. And if you look at the track record of it, 3rd and 4th round guys are 3rd and 4th round guys. You can't depend on those guys to come in a 4th rounder and change the world.
The good teams will have a bunch of guys in those rounds that are good players, that play above their draft position.
At certain positions. I think the Browns do a good job of defensive backs.
And the Browns have done that at certain positions.
And defensive
back, Emerson.
But that receiver game, they need to go to a camp.
I hope in the past year the organization has done a deep dive on what attributes they prioritized at wide receiver.
Because I can't tell.
They got them wrong. And I had a draft expert tell me they've closely looked at the last 3 wide receivers the Browns have drafted, and here's what his takeaway was. Jay, they weren't A+ in anything. Right. Now, granted, they weren't first and second rounders, but he said you can get somebody that does something extremely well. And what he said is, of the 4 classes that we put on wide receivers with speed, hands, route running, and toughness, ability to go over the middle, he's like, they didn't draft any of the 4 except for Anthony Schwartz that was above average in any of those 4 categories.
And he was above. He had elite speed.
He had speed. That was the only thing he had.
But hands.
You're right. So what his takeaway was, and that's not me saying that. That's an NFL scout who told me, Jay, however it is that the Browns are prioritizing the attributes that you needed to make a wide receiver great, they need to go back to the drawing board there because they've missed consistently in the same way.
Yeah,
by the way, the Browns, you may remember, had 5 first-round picks between 2017 and 2018. They had 5 in 2 years. Wow. They took Myles Garrett, Jabril Peppers, David Njoku, Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward. 2017.
3 of the 5 are still here.
Yes. Since then, it's been 5 years, 2019 to 2023. There's been 5 drafts. Browns have had 2 first-round picks in their last 5 years. Jedrick Wills and Greg Newsome.
Wow, crazy.
Well, that's the price of being better.
In fact, the last 2 years, I forgot in 2020, the Browns have not even drafted. Their highest draft pick in the last 2 years is 3rd round.
Yeah.
They traded out of the 2nd round last year, of course. Their highest draft pick since Greg Newsome in 2021 was Martin Emerson 2 years ago at 68. So they have not taken a player before 68 in the last 2 years.
Well, 68's the 3rd round.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they haven't drafted 1st or 2nd round.
What's the deal, man?
And they won't this year either. They'll have a late 2nd round draft.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? One of Andrew Berry's tactics is to move down.
Yes.
He's done it. He's done it enough.
Yeah.
I just hope they reevaluate how you value wide receivers.
No doubt.
Because what you've done has put this franchise in a miserable hole.
Well,
they've got to get out of it.
We're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow evaluating Andrew Berry's offseason moves as we get prepared for 2024's offseason. If you're in the chat, do us a favor, hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. It does us a lot of good work on the back end of YouTube, and from your end, it's totally free. So help us out. Help us get UCSS to everybody out there. I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday, guys, and as always, I'm just keeping my eye out for what's going on, seeing if I find anything interesting. And I came across this clip from DNVR Sports. I've kind of told you guys what it's about. I'm going to play it. You guys have not heard this, and I want your instant reaction to this clip from DNVR Sports. You ready?
Yep.
And let's take it.
That the Broncos are the Denver Saints.
I think it is. They were a very successful organization and team. I understand why Sean wants to recruit his guys over here and get some of the same players, same energy, the same winning culture. Now, if they were the Cleveland Browns for the last 10 years. I'd be like, keep them out of the building.
Yeah.
But they were very successful, so I think it's good to, bring them along.
Yeah, like it doesn't hurt. Like it's just what happens, It's not really a surprise. Like you bring in a head coach, he's gonna, when you gotta fill a role, you fill it with somebody you know. Unless like you're Raheem Morris, for example, who wasn't all that successful in his first job, and so he probably won't bring a lot of people who were on his staff the first time with him. But again, like when it's Sean Payton, who is at the same place for like 15, 16 years.
Browns caught a straight shot.
Is that the ultimate Denver sports show?
That is DNVR.
That is their version.
I almost fell asleep during that.
Why you bring us that stuff?
I think it's just someone that was ill-informed. Now, for the most part, he's right. We've played 2 playoff games in the last 10 years. I think what he was talking about was, like, in 2020, you could have said that, and it would have been absolutely in the middle of the bullseye. Mm-hmm. Because for the 2020 to 2010 era, there was no example in pro sports that was worse than this one.
Yeah.
But we're not in that space anymore. We have had only 2 playoff games since then. So,
My point, who the hell are the Denver Broncos right now to talk about?
Well, did they beat us?
Well, this year,
they did.
So, I mean, there is that.
But, I mean, look at the last 5 years. Denver's been horrendous last couple
I
years.
get it.
You know what?
But
I get it. But they've won a couple of Super Bowls, if you take it in totality.
Now, in fairness, the Browns have been one of the worst. If you look at the past decade, they are 29th in wins over the past decade.
That's a
The
fair.
only teams that are worse, the Jets, the Giants, and the Jaguars.
Wow, the Giants are worse.
Yes, they've been terrible.
They've
New
been
York
horrendous.
football
Yeah,
the
they've
last
been
Disaster.
decade. Oh, my
Disaster.
God.
However, these guys are a bunch of slapdicks. Who the hell knows who they are? I don't know. Who are those guys? What are their names?
D, N, V, and R. I don't know.
Well, they would watch us and say the
They were
same
a bunch
thing
of
in
slapdicks.
fairness. They would
no,
say
they
the same
would.
thing.
Jay, you were on ESPN. They
Well,
know you at least.
But they wouldn't know us. I mean, from
I know, but I got to take a shot at them. They're making fun of our team. You
Long
know what I'm
distance
saying?
fist
There you
bump,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
come
right
on.
on that.
I don't know them. They might be nice guys. But
the clip
believe
had like
what they have
84
to
views.
say.
I think we just gave them more publicity than they got in their own.
That's
so.
true.
I mean, look, man.
But who the hell are you to take a shot at the Cleveland Browns like
Look,
that? You're coming off a season where you just lost. You have 70 points to the Miami Dolphins.
What did they finish? 8-9?
They not in the playoffs.
No, I didn't. I know that. I asked what they finished.
Worse than the Browns.
But
Yeah.
they beat us head to head.
I only got one hand to talk and one hand to search and look this up, Jay.
Yeah,
I know, but
I think
mean,
8 and 9.
but
Yeah.
here's-
like I said, look, they beat us.
Unless you win consistent,
They were 8 and 9.
It's all based on your reputation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
the Giants still maintain a little bit of this. We're a good franchise.
That's why I was so surprised when you
Right.
told me that they were below us.
Yes, I think they're 31st. I think only the Jaguars have less wins than the Giants.
Stunning.
Maybe the Jets too. But like there's a part of your brain, because when we grew up, like or maybe not early, but like in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s and the 2000s, the Giants were good. Now they've been a crappy franchise for a while now, since the end of last few years of Eli.
Where does
on.
Denver fit in that list over the last decade?
I'll tell you.
I'd be interested to know that, because Denver's history is not recent history. Their history was Peyton Manning won the last Super Bowl for them.
Was that
John
15?
Elway won 2 Super Bowls for them. Before that, when
went
they were
to
the
a
Orange
couple-
Crush, they went to a Super Bowl and didn't win.
I have it. I
But-
have it.
So I mean, they've got a nice track record
How many-
over their franchise.
How many times have been to the Super Bowl?
I
How
would
many
say
times they won?
6.
They're 18th, so they're near the middle
Of what?
in terms of wins.
Denver is.
What about Super Bowl? How many times have been to the Super Bowl?
I bet 7.
Oh, I don't know. The last 10 years?
I mean, they've
No,
won
ever.
They've won 3.
Well,
I
they
know
won-
they lost 2 with Elway.
Right, they won
and they
2 with
lost
Elway,
with Craig
lost
Morton
2
when they were the Orange Crush.
Right.
Didn't Peyton go 1-1 in the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Peyton was
Denver?
1-1. They
Peyton did
lost
go
to the
1-1 in
Seahawks.
the Super Bowl.
So I think they're probably 3-4 in the Super Bowl.
Losers.
Yeah.
So they're
That's
they
like
beat
We
saying
got
Yeah,
8
the Bills-
championships.
And
It's like
even-
saying the Bills are losers. They're 0-4, but
Yeah.
they've been there and we haven't.
And let's be clear.
Losers.
Here's the most.
What does that make us, though?
Watch this.
We just haven't had a chance. We're
the,
winners
the
until proven
Cleveland,
otherwise.
the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
The Cleveland
Innocent
Browns.
until proven guilty.
That's
No.
horrible.
Winners still proven
That's horrible
losers.
But
logic,
here's the
Mike.
thing.
The-
Browns fans make fun of other fan bases, even though the Browns have probably been the worst franchise in the last 30 years.
The Browns are the
in
only,
the NFL.
only franchise.
Can
the
you
Browns
look that
have.
up? Because I don't even think it's a probably.
The only.
I think it's a slam
look it up.
dunk.
The only franchise that has never been to a Super Bowl or never even hosted a Super Bowl is Cleveland.
That's
Detroit.
true.
No, and
No,
Detroit.
Detroit's hosted.
Oh, well, that
I know, it doesn't count.
But you've never been involved
So
with
at least
anything.
Detroit-
Yeah, but that's not any kudos to the
No,
team.
but the
Hosting-
city can
hosting
say we
the
have a
Super
Super Bowl
Bowl is
history. We
huge.
hosted
I
it
hear
once.
you, but that's about the city, not about the team.
That's
I mean,
true. But what he
it's all
said is
wrapped in
also
one.
factual. What he
Like,
said is factual.
We have never been a part of nothing.
Jacksonville has hosted a Super Bowl.
So when you say
Houston?
Houston has hosted multiple Super
So
Bowls.
if you're gonna take shots at the city of Cleveland, you could just be like, listen, not only your team is trash, your city is trash
So
too.
we are the only one of the 32 that has never played in
Nothing.
or hosted a Super Bowl.
Can't even
If
sniff.
if you Google search Super Bowl Cleveland,
Doesn't exist.
I mean stuff will come up because they'll say Cleveland didn't make it to the Super Bowl again.
All right.
But
I looked up best winning percent. This popped up best winning percent. I did winning percentage because the Browns were out of the league for 3 years.
That's fair.
So you
Yeah.
don't want to just do wins, and some
Right.
of these teams haven't been around for 30
no,
years.
that's fair.
Since 1990, where are the Browns in winning percentage? What do you think?
I would say they're
430.
probably 31 or 32.
4.432 winning percentage.
Oh no, but where are they ranked? I'm saying
Oh, probably 30th.
they are dead last.
That's what I would guess. What is their winning percentage? And if .432 is high.
35.7.
So that means over the last 32 years, the Browns have won one game for every 3 they lost.
Yeah,
Or 2.
basically. A little less than
35%
that.
would be
Yeah.
1. You would be 1 and 2, right?
To put that in perspective, the second worst team. You want to guess who that is? You might.
Win percentage?
Second worst.
It's actually a tie. There's a tie for 30.
Is it an expansion team?
No.
So it's a team that's
Lions?
than Detroit.
The Lions
Yeah.
and Arizona are actually tied. They have the exact same record since 1990.
Now,
It's great.
what is their winning percentage?
It's almost 41. It's almost 5 percentage points better.
So we're, oh, God.
I don't
That's
care about
crazy.
numbers. This is the one time I don't care about stats.
Yeah.
Screw these guys in DNVR.
No, absolutely. Absolutely screw those guys.
Well, I'm with that too, but I mean,
But-
I get that why they would say that.
And
I
it
mean,
wasn't like they went on and on about it.
no,
They
he
made
just
one
mentioned
comment.
Cleveland.
This
As-
is
It takes the Browns have been so bad for so long. Like when fans were how many fans did we have making fun of the Steelers and Bengals early in the season? If you look at Twitter, like
lots.
that's embarrassing. You can't be doing that.
Right.
When
Browns
you're
fans don't
just
do that,
coming.
Bull.
Like what's
No,
that?
Browns fans don't do that.
oh, they was victory lapping.
Yeah, look at my.
Every fan base does that.
Now,
Every second tweet from Nick Carnes is about how awful every other team is. Nick, I love you, buddy.
We love Nick.
But in
you're
all
the same
fairness,
person.
you also prematurely buried Pittsburgh last year and
does
this
it-
year.
he does it every year.
I did
Because we so badly need them to suck.
But yeah, I mean, I know how good a franchise they've been. I don't know. I'm not going to do it again next year. But in the end, yeah, the Browns have been a brand franchise. But screw Denver, and they have a lot. Their baseball team sucks. How about that? The Rockies are trash.
Hey, look.
Well, they did win an NBA championship.
We'll put a bow in it. Hey, listen, man, you're only good as your last game, good as your last year. Browns was way better than y'all. We went to the playoffs. You guys didn't. You need to figure out if you got a quarterback. You should be worried about Russell Wilson.
Yeah, they don't even have a
Sean
quarterback.
Payton. You got to figure that out.
Who's going to be their quarterback next year? They're going to have to draft
Joe
somebody.
That's a good question.
Yep.
All right, we're going to talk a little Cavs here. Darius Garland made his return
Flacco.
last night. If you bet on the Cavs to cover with FanDuel, well, that would not have been a winning ticket because the Cavs did not cover. But happy Super Bowl season to all who celebrate.
went under.
From FanDuel, America's #1
Bad job,
sportsbook.
buddy.
If you're like us, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite snacks, and placing some super bets. And FanDuel has a ton of different ways to help you end the season with not just one W, but 2 or 3 or more. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Right now, new customers join today and get $200 in bonus bets if their first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Our second winning ticket today comes from C-Dub711. He had a 15-leg parlay on the NFL games this past Sunday. $5 won him $290.69. Very nice bet there from C-Dub711. But $5 into $290 on a 15-leg same-game NFL parlay. Darius Garland made his return to the court last night in the Cavs win over the Pistons. Donovan Mitchell went superhuman to essentially steal the win. But, guys, let's start with DG first. What'd you see from the Cavs all-star point guard in his return to action? And it's worth noting that he played 20 minutes but was not on the court for the final 6-7 minutes when the Cavs made their triumphant return.
We still don't know that there was a minutes restriction, right? No one said anything.
I thought I read that there was.
I thought they read.
Okay, so that might be.
I read Joe Varden's article this morning.
Because before the game, I hadn't heard anything about a minutes restriction, which surprised me because there's no way he's going to come back and play his first game in the length of time he's been out.
No, there was. I didn't make
so,
a thing. Yeah.
I think if there was a minutes restriction, I won't read too much into the fact that they used his minutes up before the 6.5 minute mark. But here's my takeaway, and it's not really directly on Darius Garland. They looked different last night, and not in a good way.
No, I mean they had to get a superhuman effort from Donovan Mitchell in the fourth quarter. He scored 20 in the fourth quarter?
20 in the fourth, 45
to
overall.
beat the worst team in the NBA.
I think they are the worst team, aren't they? Yeah.
It just, once again, I wanted to see exactly how they would play. I watched this game, and I had a microscope on. And sometimes in basketball, the thing that can really, pull the wool over your eyes is points. Like, because somebody get an amount of points, you feel like that's effectiveness, right? But it doesn't take into account how you got those points. A couple things I noticed, the tempo slowed down a little bit.
I thought so too.
There weren't as spread out. There was a lot of what I would call clogging in the lane. There were times where Jared Allen would get the ball, but Evan Mobley was around. His guy comes over, and now it's just congested. There's less Sam Merrill on the floor. Wide open threes.
He didn't play like the last 15. He barely played in the second half.
Max Strus looks like he's lost. I don't know. Listen, he didn't even. I was confused what he was doing. And the overall defense. When you let them, a team like the Pistons, shoot that high of a percentage, you couldn't get stops when you needed them. It just seemed like it was a completely different team, and it was a team that was reminiscent of last year, where they play these games where, yes, it looks like these guys are winning. You get Mobley with 15 and Allen with 12 or 13, and got Darius Garland gets his 22 and Mitchell gets his 27. But that's the same type game we was playing last year. It ain't as open, it's not as flowing, and it's just like it strains a little bit. It's like, I just saw it looked like two different teams that I've been watching the last couple of days.
It's the first time I've watched the Cavs in the past month where I have said to myself, I'm not a fan of this style of basketball.
It was that style of game.
I said earlier that sometimes there's addition by subtraction. And what that means is what it says. You could lose a part and suddenly become better. It's oxymoronic. It doesn't seem like it's possible. But I think last night was subtraction by addition. And I don't know if this was they're all it's
the first game back for Garland.
He's
getting used
so I
want to
see it more.
Yeah.
But I was troubled watching it. I was like, just let's turn back the clock to a week ago when I thought they were playing their best basketball. I thought their win against Milwaukee, to me, was the epicenter, was the apex of what they are and who they can be. And by the way, that's a measuring stick in the East. They might not be the best team in the East, but they're, I think, inarguably in the top three. And they looked great in that game. Last night against the Pistons, there were just moments where I was afraid they were going to lose the game.
Oh, no. Fourth quarter, I was like, they're going to dance around and lose
this felt game. Like it was going to be one of those games you look back on later and say, how'd they lose that?
You wonder if it's, part of it might have been the Pistons suck and they didn't work hard enough defensively.
That's possible.
You see a team with that many losses,
but
maybe it's hard to be motivated.
Not even what the Pistons were doing to us, it was what we were doing. Like a lot of times you'll lose a game because the defense is doing something to you that you just weren't prepared for. I felt like all our wounds were self-inflicted. What was Garland's plus-minus last night?
Once again, first game back, plus-minus is not a perfect indication.
I understand.
Everyone who played yesterday for the Cavs, they're plus-minus. Because I think there's a trend that's at least worth noting. Not making a big deal out of it, but I do think it's interesting at least to note. Once again, one game back, minute sample size.
Too small to make any rash decisions.
This is every Cav who played last night, they're plus-minus. Evan Mobley, -4. Jared Allen, +19. Darius Garland, -16.
Oh, my God.
Donovan Mitchell, +22. Max Strus, +5. That's your starting lineup. On the bench, Dean Wade, -7. Niang, -0. Okoro, +18.
Wow.
Karis LeVert, +7. And Sam Merrill,
Okoro's always had
-9.
a pretty good plus-minus, hasn't he?
And we talk about these guys coming back. Garland helps in certain facilities and certain aspects. Mobley helps in certain aspects. What they do with Okoro, he's become not in the same level of valuable as Mitchell and Allen, but he brings something that they can't replicate with anyone else.
I agree.
I can't believe I'm saying this after everything we talked about with him last
No,
year.
I get it, but he's different
He
this
needs
year.
to be on the court.
Shout out.
All
I
their best
agree with
lineups
that.
have Isaac Okoro on the court, and his transformation. And usually, he's drafted at 19 after 1 year at Auburn. They usually make a jump in year 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, and then that's kind of the player you think you're going to become. It's taken him a little longer, and you want to say it's on the coaching staff for not developing him fast enough, just his personality, whatever. Who knows? He's turned into a really valuable NBA player.
I agree.
And
Does that
all
teach
their
us
best
a lesson?
lineups. What do you say, Bull?
Does that teach us a lesson maybe that all of us, myself included certainly, need to be more patient with Mobley, even though Mobley was a higher pick, that some guys, and Mobley was really young, and some guys take longer to develop?
Just one thing, and I'll let you guys chime in.
Possibly.
Even when they drafted Okoro, his ceiling was nowhere near where you thought the ceiling Mobley could be.
Sure.
Okoro was never drafted to be the
not even the
franchise
same.
guy. Mobley was drafted, looked at as a guy who could be the centerpiece of a championship team. So I think they're different. in that
Agreed.
realm.
I wasn't trying to insinuate
No, but his
that, but
full point
just
is-
that guys take time to develop.
Yeah.
Whether,
Oh,
whether you
that's
expect
totally
them
fair.
to be
Totally
decent,
fair.
good, or great, guys develop at different,
At
on
different rates.
clocks.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Okoro right now is their best defensive player. Okoro is the best on-the-ball defender. He can cover ones, twos, threes. He does not give up strength.
It's versatile, man.
He's knocking down to some extent that corner three. He gets in the transition. He finishes on the break. He brings energy. He's the guy where you look at it and say, okay, he allows Mitchell to do other things, like let me play the passing lane. Donovan Mitchell right now is leading, was one of the guys, he's getting almost 2 steals a game, in I think last month, and he allows him to play a style of basketball where he's not guarding those guys. When Okoro's in the game, he don't got to guard the best guys on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But when Garland is, and you got Donovan Mitchell, now Donovan Mitchell is guarding the shooting guards.
And that
He's
takes away from his
switching-
offense. Greg.
Takes
He's
away
gotta
from
use
his
energy
offensive
on the
game.
defensive side.
It's just tough. I know, and it's a small sample size, and it's not like this is horrible, and they can't figure. They won a basketball game, but one of the things with the Cavs is they must figure out these rotations. They have to do it. If JB is going to get to the second round of this team, because I believe talent alone is good enough to compete with some of these teams. But I agree with Jay. The top of the food chain at the way they played was how they played at Milwaukee. Milwaukee was at full strength. Fresh Giannis, fresh Damian Lillard. They had all their pieces and parts out there. Middleton played, but guess what? The Cavs came out there and they played their game. They spread the ball around. They moved it. Donovan was at the tip of the spear and it was working. I'm not sure if they can play that style if Darius is on the ball.
But, okay, Mitchell was still on the ball a lot last night.
Darius
Not as much.
Darius had the ball a lot. I mean, he
And that's what my fear was. They each take up a lot of oxygen in the room.
Well,
And I just felt it was, forget the score for a second.
yeah.
If you were just watching the game and you were comparing it to how they had played
Right,
the
it
Friday
didn't-
before,
yeah.
the ball movement wasn't there. I agree with you that there were too many times where there was a clog in the middle and it was created by them. Mm-hmm. And I think, Mike, this is a theory I have. I'm just curious. To me, I think all teams operate better with a lot of spacing on the floor. And it felt like the Cavs over the last month leading into the Milwaukee game had really sort of solved that Rubik's Cube as to what the rotation needed to be, the 4 out, 1 in, and everything was open. Passing lanes were open. The middle was open.
Right.
And last night I was just like, wow, it's like we undid all of that.
But guys, ultimately, if this team is going to be successful in the playoffs, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley have to be a part of it. They're better players than some of these other guys. So
Yes.
The coach has to figure out how to make them work within that system. We're not just going to put Darius Garland on the bench. He's
Bull's
a much better player than these guys. Mike, what do you say?
No, Bull's right. At the end of the day, the Cavs' ceiling has those 4 guys playing a majority of minutes as opposed to
Well, then they better
Niang and
figure it
everything
out.
else. And
because they look better without those two.
It's one game. If they play tonight in Memphis, they play on Saturday. They got a couple games coming up.
But let's compare.
I got a stat for you that's going to help.
I know
your
it's how
point
few
here.
the
I got a stat for you
together.
here.
Okay.
So, and I was curious as you were talking, Jay, the amount of field goals made to assists in the game. So the percentage of made field goals to assists.
That's a big stat, I think.
So yesterday, now granted they scored a lot more. They scored 128 yesterday. So as much as the offense may have looked stagnant, they put up 130.
No, I know.
So it's not
but
like
it was also
bad.
it was Detroit.
Yeah, I understand all the context. They had 26 assists yesterday on 47 made field goals.
Okay.
So 26, 47, that's over 50%.
Yes.
And I just went back to I can't pull this up. This is game-by-game box scores. Against the Clippers on Monday, 28 assists on 42 made field goals.
See, I think that's the formula.
Now, that is the peak, but you go back one more game to the Milwaukee game. In my head, I was like, they shared the ball great that game. You ready for this?
Yeah.
38 made field goals, 20 assists. It's actually the lowest percentage of assists to made field goals.
Barely.
I mean, it's pretty much the same.
It's almost identical. In fact,
It's almost identical to what they did yesterday. So
yeah.
Oh wait, I was thinking 48. Sorry, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah,
Scratch that.
they're all
all similar.
Well, the Clipper one was way better
way
than the other two.
Yeah.
The Clipper one was great, and that was again like the Milwaukee and the Clipper game to me was the best 2-game stretch I've seen the Cavaliers look since last regular season.
Man, I go back and watch Golden State, man, and I watch Steve Kerr. And the way they are savants. They're a genius the way they run this stuff. Like when they guys get in the game, they got 3 or 4 plays we running for Steph. They got 3 or 4 plays they running for Clay. We got 3 or 4 plays for Wiggins, right? Whether it's pin downs, whether it's like they change the way that they play based on who's on the floor. It seems a lot with the Cavs. When Merrill comes in the game, I need to get Merrill a shot. You see what I'm saying? Like when I grew up, the point guard used to call that. Point guard come up to court. Hey, we want to get Mobley some action. Let's just figure out how to do it. Yeah. Sam Merrill on the court, he didn't hit 2 in a row. We're gonna run that same down screen when we hit it to him.
I think they have to spend the next we're at the end of December, so you got January. You got 2.5 months till the playoffs start, right? So they have to spend that time now that everybody's healthy again, figuring out how to cut down the rotation because nobody's playing 10, 11 guys in the playoffs.
Doesn't that come at the peril of a guy like Sam Merrill?
Well, maybe it shouldn't. We're going to talk more about Sam Merrill in a minute. Maybe he should be one of those 8 guys. Yeah. But you can't just cut out Garland and Mobley. They're too talented. And even though, yes, they've played better without them, in the long run, it's the regular season. And we saw last year that the regular season meant nothing when the playoffs started. And so I think the way the balance is keeping those shooters in there, like Merrill, who's the best shooter on the team, and finding a way to use Darius Garland and Evan Mobley in the system that's succeeding, finding a balance. It's not going to be exactly the same, but they've got to be able to put it all together if they're going to win in the playoffs.
I agree with that, but here's my fear. I know we keep saying it's one game. We saw them together to start the season. They did not look good, and that was for an extended stretch. We saw them all together last year. And although it worked in the regular season, as we've said a million times, it's almost a different sport once the calendar flips to the postseason.
Right, so
they haven't figured it out, and they've had a lot of time to do it.
Right, but we don't know if the way they've won the last month and a half is going to win in the postseason either.
We don't, but we know the way they won last year in the regular season ain't it either. So you got to try something new.
Well, but just because you're bringing Mobley and Garland back doesn't mean you're going to play the same old way. You're right. They played poorly early in the season. No disagreement there. But
so we got to try something
my
new.
assumption is, and if I'm wrong, then okay, then that's probably stupid by the Cavs. My assumption is, well, now that these guys are back and now they know how well they played without them, well, we have to figure out something in between. Well, we were playing great without them. We weren't playing well. We don't want to go that style because that's bad. We can't go 100% this most recent style because we got to fit these guys in. They're great players.
Sure.
How do you find it in between where
that's where the coach comes in.
We play a style that's maybe similar to what we've been doing, a little different, not what it was last year or early in the season, but where we could get everybody to excel and reach our peak.
JB's problem is a good one. JB's problem is a good one. You've got a lot of great pieces. You've got a lot of great ingredients. Now make a wonderful dish.
Last year we talked about they had no depth. They got a lot of depth right now.
And we're going to talk about that in 1 sec. Bull, last point to what you said, then we'll move on to Sam Merrill. In the playoffs, when you play a team potentially 7 times in a row, matchups play a huge role in the style of basketball you can play. We know the Cavs have at least shown us they can play a 4-out, 1-in. We've seen last year they won with 2 bigs. They at least have a little versatility to play some matchup games if they want. We'll talk some more Cavs tomorrow night. Jason and myself on the first ever Ultimate Cavs Show. Make sure you guys tune in. That airs at 5 o'clock. I don't have the super ready for Anthony, but it airs at 5 o'clock. What's up?
Who, before we get to Sam Merrill specifically, right now the Cavs are the 4 seed.
Yes.
They play, I think the Sixers are the 5 seed at the moment.
They're a couple away from the 3 seed, too.
Yeah, right.
A couple away from the 2
I think
seed.
between 2 and 5, it's like 2 games or a game and a half or something.
Game and a half between 2 and 5.
So let's assume the Celtics and the Bucks finish 1-2, and that the Cavs will finish 3, 4, or 5.
Yes.
Now, obviously, you'd rather, 3 is the best case scenario because then you play one of those other teams. So between the Knicks and the Sixers, who is the better matchup for the Cavs?
I do not want to see the Knicks in the playoffs. They're both bad
either.
matchups. Frankly, they're both bad matchups, but I do not want to
Is
see
that just because of last year, or is there more to it than that?
I think Brunson is a legitimate bonus. We talked about Donovan Mitchell getting snubbed of an all-star starting spot by Dame Lillard. We probably should have talked about Jalen Brunson in that same conversation. He's having a better season than both Mitchell and Dame Lillard. They have size. They have 2 bigs, but they can spread out their bigs. So you're going to guard Julius Randle with Dean Wade, and they just traded for OG Anunoby, who's one of the best defensive players in the league. He'll hound Donovan Mitchell for 7 games. Not saying Mitchell can't score, but that makes his job infinitely more hard.
So
I like them.
So if the Cavs end up as the 4 or the 5 seed, you would say there'd be an underdog to either Philly or New York. Is that what you're saying?
As of today, yeah. It could change, but as of today, yes.
So, and if they were the 3 seed, of all those teams that are in the mix for 6,
I love their matchup against Indiana.
Yeah.
Miami, I have no clue what Miami's going to look like come playoff time.
They're always dangerous in the playoffs.
But I like them against anyone else. I think the Cavs, seeding-wise, trying to go for the 3 seed is a very big necessity for them.
Very doable. Very doable. They're very close right now.
Half a game out.
And Mike, I think what you just said is something that I repeated to a friend of mine even before last night's game. I said the train on the track that's coming towards us is that we're either the 4 or the 5 because we're going to get the Knicks. Because if we're the 4, they're going to be the 5, and if we're the 5, they're going to be the 4. We need the 3. And I know it sounds stupid, but for some reason, the Knicks scare me more than even Milwaukee does, and I don't know why that is. But
Knicks
it's a matchup thing.
Knicks are a wonky matchup.
They're very tough for us.
Would you say, and Boston's a tougher matchup for the Cavs than Milwaukee, correct?
I agree with
Yes.
that. Yeah.
So if the Cavs can get the 3 seed, not only do they have a much better chance of winning in the first round because you're playing Orlando or Miami or
Much
Indiana
better in the second
as
round,
opposed to
too.
Philly,
Yeah.
and you get to play Milwaukee as opposed to Boston in the second round. Now, obviously, the Cavs are going to be an underdog either way.
I'm gonna tell you,
But I like
your
our chances against Milwaukee
Gotta get
better
that
than
3
Boston.
seed.
Unless they play 1 guy in, 4 guys out, they are not beating nobody. I'm just going to tell you right now.
I believe that too.
It's like,
Mike, what do you think of that?
When you revert back to your old thing because it's comfortable,
But
you
there could be an in-between between the old
Yeah.
thing and the 1 and 4.
I think
There's
Bull's
got to
on
be
it.
somewhere in between.
There has to be a happy medium.
I will say
there has
this.
to be.
I just don't believe you can play Evan Mobley and Allen at the same time. You just can't. If they're going to play the majority of their minutes together, and you're going to say just because they're talented, they cancel each other out. They are the same person, but
You
one's
may be
older,
right
one's
there,
younger.
but they're gonna. But Garland and Mitchell are going to have to play together a lot.
That's fine. But here's the thing. I would keep either Allen and Mitchell or Garland and Mobley. You got either one. But you can't pay those guys in major minutes and expect because I'll give you this question: if you playing the Knicks, they're already getting washed out by the bigs. Robinson down low, that's a bad matchup. They got Anunoby with size and girth.
Their guards are big.
So now they about to put that on Donovan Mitchell.
That's why they're
And
tough
then you
for us,
got
boy.
Brunson on Garland. He can't do nothing with that. You cannot. The only way you're gonna beat them is if you got shooters out there like Merrill and Strus, and you run your guards, and then you make people be on the island.
I think we got to give these new guys a couple of weeks to fit in and see what it looks like.
Well, speaking of
They're
new
not new
guys and how
guys,
we're
they're
going to
just
figure
bad.
out.
Well, but
I know what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah.
To figure out this new rotation, we're going to see in the coming weeks, I guess, and really months, how many guys JB Bickerstaff truly trusts. Because in the last couple of weeks, with given opportunities, Sam Merrill has turned into one of kind of a cult legend in Cleveland. But
Yes.
not just that, one of the most effective, efficient volume shooters in the NBA. Anthony, take this graphic full here. Per 36 minutes, so this averages out everyone on a 36-minute basis. Sam Merrill is shooting more three-point attempts per 36 minutes than any other player in the NBA. And check out the percentage.
And making
Not
them.
only is he letting it fly, he's making them at a clip that's better than Steph Curry. That's
told
not Steph.
you.
That is Steph. Now, they are very different players. Sam Merrill is not
Yeah,
Steph Curry.
Steph brings other things to
but
the party.
Sam Merrill, in my opinion, has carved out a role in this offense
I
that
agree.
they cannot replicate. And we only saw him play 7 minutes on Monday against the Clippers. There are certain matchups that certainly do not favor him. We didn't see him play much in the second half yesterday when I thought maybe they could have used him. He had 11 points in the first half. I'm curious in your guys' opinion. Has Sam Merrill done enough to carve out a continued spot in this rotation?
Absolutely
even with
he has.
Well, I think we
healthy
all
guys
agree
coming
that he
back?
does. But here's the question, Mike. So in the playoffs, you usually use 8 guys, right?
Usually.
Most likely, yes.
Okay. So the Cavs use 10 guys right now.
Yep.
I think we probably all agree that one of the guys you boot out is Dean Wade. Do we all agree with that or no?
I agree with that.
You ain't even asked me.
Mike, are you in agreement on that or no?
It depends. If you're going 4 out, 1 in, Dean Wade has to play.
Okay.
See, because he does some things that you need.
But if you're going to play
you
Sam
can't play
Merrill,
4 guys who are 6'5" and
Sam
under.
Merrill's role, Bull, is in a shooter's spot when you're coming out of a timeout and you need threes.
Yeah.
He's good in that case.
Okay.
The problem is you're only using him if you're down and you're trying to cut into a lead.
right? But if you who are the 2 guys you're cutting out from the rotation? If
So-
it's up to you, Mike.
I mean, right now,
Yeah.
like Dean Wade drives you crazy sometimes, but if you're not going to play Mobley and Allen together, you need Dean Wade because you can't just go 4 guards. And George Niang is a solid defender. One of those two's getting cut. So I guess in that case, yeah, Wade is probably the one.
There
that
you
goes.
go.
Okay, so Wade knocks us down to 9. Who's the other guy? You got to play Okoro.
Okoro's
play
not.
Okoro.
Yeah, he's not leaving.
You
Levert's
got
not
to play the
leaving.
big
No,
4.
Okoro and Levert
And
are.
that's-
You're going to play Strus. You're going to play Levert.
And that's where the Merrill question comes in.
So is it? So you move it? Is Niang out of the list? Off the list?
Well, you can't take both bigs out.
So who you taking out?
See,
That's the question I'm asking.
So
It's
I'm
tough.
telling you, that's why I keep coming back to the notion that's crazy. I know it seems crazy, but you have a glut of talent. I don't think a trade is out of the because I keep running into that same brick wall, Bull. I don't know what the answer is.
Right. So
But I'm not winning with good players on the bench.
I mean, in a perfect world, Donovan Mitchell would sign a long-term extension, and you'd be able to turn Darius Garland into a wing player. But we don't live in that world. That's not going to happen.
And the thing is, I said a number of weeks ago,
Yeah.
what I would do is I would first go to Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I would say, listen, we need to know that you're here for more than a minute. We want to build this thing around you, and we want to maximize some other talent that we have to bring in some assets to help you win. Not guys that look like you, guys that can complement you. And if you present him with a long-term extension and he signs it, to me, I know it seems like blasphemy every time I say it on this show. I get ridiculed, but I'm going to say it again. Garland is a chip.
The problem is, Mike was saying this the other day. We were making Mike and G and Tyvis, and I think Earl was in the conversation. We're talking about like kind of where does Darius Garland rank amongst the point guards in the NBA, and I think you guys had him like in the middle, like 15,
Like
right?
13, 14, 15.
And that's
Okay.
fair.
So, like-
but he's still a piece, guys.
Right, but let's get crazy now for a minute. Okay, let's say in theory Mitchell was willing to sign, because you wouldn't even consider trading Garland unless you knew Mitchell was going to
You
stay.
can't. He's your safety net.
Right. That's what
When
I'm
Mitchell
saying.
walks, you need Darius
Right. So you're
Garland.
not going to trade Mitchell unless you
But
knew
I don't
for
think
sure
you need both of them.
But could you? Let's say go La La Land with Mike here. If you, and I know people are going to say he's going to be a free agent, so why would you do it? Well, because you want to win now. In theory, is there a package you could put if Mitchell were to sign an extension?
Okay.
I know I'm probably not living in reality, but if he were, is there a package you can create with Darius Garland that wouldn't kill your team to get LeBron James?
Yeah, Garland's a max player. You could trade him straight up money-wise for almost anybody.
But what else would the Lakers want in that deal?
What would they want?
Yeah.
Mobley?
Yeah, well, you're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're getting LeBron for Garland, LeVert, and a 2027 first-round pick. Like Sam Merrill and LeVert and Garland's not getting you LeBron.
No, I think Sam Merrill's a perfect guy to have with LeBron.
I'm just saying, like, you're asking, like, how about you offer them Pete Nance, Isaiah Mobley, and Ty Jerome, and 12?
I'm asking you. Okay, so you'd have to trade Mobley.
Yeah, there's no way you're getting.
You can't do that.
So let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
Because this is the bet that you're making and the question that you need to answer. Where do the Cavs have the best chance of winning a championship? Keeping Mobley, or trading for LeBron?
Trading for LeBron. At least, I mean.
So why can't you trade?
Now, as crazy as it may seem, Mike, I know some people are going to lose their minds, especially because, I'm not a big basketball guy.
You would.
Right? And if people want to kill me, that's fine. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here.
Sure.
If you did trade Mobley and Garland for LeBron,
That's a squad.
just in theory.
That's a squad.
Think about your lineup now. You got,
and now you have that piece that can win you a championship.
Right, like the Cavs could win a championship with that team, correct?
Yeah.
No doubt they could.
You have Mitchell, LeBron, Allen, Strus, who's a perfect LeBron guy.
Merrill's perfect.
Merrill's a perfect LeBron guy.
And Okoro's your defensive guy.
You've got every single piece you need.
It's a really good LeBron team if that's the trade you make, yeah. It's never going to happen, but it's a really good trade. If the Cavs are going to make a trade, and I do think they're going to be aggressive at the deadline, the one thing they're missing, because they have a bunch of guys that kind of have overlapping skill sets. I think they can package two and you're not getting a LeBron, but you could, I don't know if money-wise this works. I'm spitballing. I haven't looked at the trade machine. But, if you package Niang and Dean Wade to try to get, a Cam Johnson, someone from the Nets who are going to try selling to get some money back. Cam Johnson's a 6'7" wing with size and shooting.
I'll take that today.
That then makes you better, and it eliminates we have 9 guys. How do we play all 9 in the playoffs? Well, you trade 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Upgrade that 1. And
now you're better.
Now that's what I think the Cavs, maybe not Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal. There's some candidates in that range.
Let me ask you a question. Money-wise, how would that trade work out, the 2 for 1 on LeBron? How would that work? I would think that would work.
Yeah, it works.
Well, Garland's a max player. We keep we left.
I know.
Darius Garland makes $55 million a year.
I know he does.
Would the Cavs?
I'm putting in the machine.
So
the
why
trade
would the
machine right
Lakers
now.
not do it? Let's start there, because if we all agree that the Cavs would absolutely be a championship contender, we know why the Cavs would do it.
But Mike says they won't, which they probably won't because they thinking long term.
You better.
Yeah.
I mean, you better.
LeBron is
if Mobley ends up being what he is now.
Yeah.
LeBron's 100. Why would you not take a guy that people think is
the Lakers would do that trade.
Yes. The Lakers would absolutely
straight up money-wise,
do that
Jay,
trade.
you asked in the trade machine.
Yeah.
Straight up money-wise, Garland and Mobley for LeBron works. Straight up.
Is there another piece that the Cavs could get back in that deal?
Roy Hachimura.
They'd have to get something back.
They'd have to get something back, but then you got to add more salaries.
But even if an expiring contract or whatever.
All right, let me ask you guys this, okay? And I get it. If you traded away Darius and Mobley, and then LeBron plays for 2 years, he goes off the cliff in the second year, and Donovan walks, this franchise you suck.
Why would Donovan
walk?
You got another ring.
What do you think the chances are
you
without LeBron
you want it.
of the Cavs winning a championship as they're currently constituted over the next 5 years?
I think the best question, I think this is even the next step.
Yeah.
What are the chances that Evan Mobley and Darius Garland are the 2 best players on the championship team?
Right. Well, yeah. Okay.
Because you assume Mitchell's gone. And if Mitchell's gone, you got those 2 pieces. Are they going to win a championship with Mobley and Darius Garland?
I don't know. I wouldn't. There's a chance, but based on what I know right now, no.
Do you think so? What do you think, Mike? I agree with Jay on that.
I was playing with the trade machine. Cam Johnson makes too much money. That
do you
doesn't work
think the Cavs can win a championship with Garland and Mobley as the 2 best players?
What's funny is this all goes back to the Browns conversation. Is Deshaun Watson going to be Deshaun Watson, who we expect and think? Does Evan Mobley develop a shot?
That's not a good comparison.
Because we don't know Evan Mobley can be him.
Deshaun Watson had already been a top 5 guy.
I'm just saying the whole thing, to answer Bo's question, if Evan Mobley turns into the player the Cavs thought they were drafting
that wasn't the question.
Can they win in 5 years with Evan Mobley and Garland?
No, as their best 2 players. If Mobley turns into the player, this unicorn that everyone says he can be, then the answer is yes.
Right, but there's certainly no sure thing there. Well, as part of the answer to that question, you have to decide personally whether you think that's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I ask you, Mike, can they win a championship with Garland and Mobley as their 2 best players? And based that on what you think they're going to be over the next 5 years, in your opinion?
No.
So if the Cavs feel that way, do you think if they made that trade today that they could win a championship this year?
I do.
Yes.
With LeBron, Donovan Mitchell, and Jared Allen as their default big 3.
And they'd still have a good depth around them.
Yes.
It isn't like
they
they have no
could.
bench.
Right.
I think they could.
Bull, I'll go a step further. I think, now this may be blasphemous, I think that team would just be a little below the team that won it in 2016.
Well, I mean,
I love Kyrie and I love everything he brought, but you're replacing Kyrie with Donovan Mitchell,
and you're replacing Tristan Thompson with Jared Allen,
which is an upgrade.
By the way, who's a better player?
Who?
Kyrie then, Donovan Mitchell now.
Kyrie was so
even?
good, Bull.
Is it even?
It might be.
I mean,
Donovan's really good.
I know, so
like
it might
really,
be a
really
push.
good.
It might be a push. So
let's call it a push.
Yeah.
Now your 3rd best player was Kevin Love. The Cavs' 3rd best player, after you made this trade, would be Jared Allen.
Yes.
I mean, now, obviously, Kevin Love's, they're different type of players.
They are different type of players.
I would think we'd all agree Kevin Love is better.
Well,
but they're different. They're both great rebounders.
But defensively, Jared
Allen way better.
Obviously.
But Kevin Love is much better shooter.
What we haven't discussed yet needs to be brought into the equation because we're just spitballing and we're having fun.
Yeah.
However, think about the infusion of energy, not just in the Cleveland Cavaliers, but in the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
If he does come back.
Yeah.
And obviously you wouldn't want him to be a rental. I think you'd have a pretty good chance that you could sign him.
If he were
was willing to
come
sign
back
an extension,
in a trade, you'd think he'd stay.
So if I'm the Cavs and I call the Lakers and I say we've got Mobley and Garland tickets booked to LA right now. We want LeBron, and we want to talk to him about an extension for 2 years.
And you know what?
I don't know why you wouldn't do that deal.
I would still take the chance, even if he wasn't willing to do it now.
To go for it like the Rams
for a
did.
championship.
Yeah, let's go all
I would
in.
do it because, and I get it. In football and baseball, I'm a nerd. I'm one of the nerds. In basketball, I'm not. And the basketball nerds are pissed at this conversation right now. They're pissed.
They are sleeping.
But ask all of them, which team gives you the better chance to win? As constituted or Mobley and Garland off with LeBron
If they made that trade today,
the
our
excitement?
whole thought about this team completely changes.
And by the way, the interest in this franchise, in the city, goes immediately back to 2016 levels.
Through the roof. And by the way, one thing we left out when you say, well, they're only slightly below the team that won the championship. You know what, though? The Golden State Warriors.
The rest of the NBA is not as good.
Nobody's close to what the Warriors were.
Golden State Warriors statistically had the best regular season of all time. And that 16
they had to
team
beat
won.
an all-time great team.
Right,
There's
that
no
team
all-time
doesn't
great
exist
teams right now.
And if you think I'm
text
crazy,
Jason and ask him if that's a good trade. If he would do that trade.
If you think
I'll
I'm
text
crazy,
Jason.
And Jason's the basketball
go
nerd
back,
that would say,
go back and
no
watch the
way.
Raptors. Go back and watch a couple years of that Raptors series where the Cavs just dominated them and they hit 30, 40 threes a game.
Right.
That's what would happen. We got Strus, Niang, Merrill.
I would say the players like 6 through 9 on this Cavs team are better than the championship teams.
I agree with that.
Now, I'd say 3, 4, 5, those Cavs teams were better. But,
you're right.
But,
I agree.
And let's face it, LeBron was better then.
Just reach out to Jason and see what he thinks of that.
We got 15 new members today. Phil Bowman gifted 10 memberships.
Nice, Phil.
Evan 419 gifted 5. We appreciate you guys.
Way to go, guys.
Mike, where does LeBron rank right now, in your opinion, in the best player list in the NBA? Right now,
between 6 and 10.
I think
he's
so
still
too.
top 10.
He's still top 10.
I agree too. And I'll say this about LeBron. When the playoffs come around and he's motivated and he wants to be, he can be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Oh,
what do you want?
Right, yeah.
And then we'll get to play keep, cut, trade. But someone you guys may have heard of, Corey Crawford, maybe you're familiar with him, just texted me.
He
and
is
said
blood.
Mitchell can't hold the flame to 2016. Kyrie, come on. So we'll make that a topic next week when
Oh,
Jason's
Corey,
on.
you're wrong on that.
No.
So
I'm sorry,
we
son.
will.
I have to tell you, you're
We'll
wrong.
make that a topic.
But
All right.
Kyrie, I even said,
Kyrie was phenomenal.
Kyrie was phenomenal. Phenomenal. But Donovan Mitchell, if he's not better, I think
Yeah.
he's a push or just
Right.
maybe a
The more I
smidge
think
below.
about it, I'd give Kyrie the edge, but only by a little.
I think our memories have we have faded how good Kyrie was, and
That's
you said
true.
it yesterday.
Oh, no.
He hit
Oh,
the
no.
shot
And
that
that's
brought
the
us
thing.
the title.
We know Kyrie can make big shots in the biggest
know
spots.
it.
Yeah.
We don't know that Donovan can do that.
No, in fact,
Yeah.
I've seen Donovan shrink in big moments.
That's right, especially here.
All right, let's play keep, cut, trade, guys. We got 6 of these, and we got super chats at the very end. So let's get right into it. These are all sports. We'll start with some Browns.
Chat
We'll go to
probably
little
going
Cavs,
crazy.
and we're going to end with the fun one. This is keep, cut, trade. We haven't pulled it out in a while, and let's have some fun. You guys know the rules. Keep, you cut, and you trade. We don't have to explain it anymore. First one, how about the Browns Brain Trust? Keep, cut, trade. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and Jim Schwartz.
Oh,
That's a tough one.
jeez. I'm keeping Stefanski. That much I know.
Me too.
So it's a matter of cutting and trading. I would trade Schwartz because I think he has more value. And
I just do
would
it as a
say
rank.
you
In other
cut.
words, keep is the best guy, trade is the second
See,
best guy.
I always look at
that's
it
how I'm
when
doing
it gets
it,
down
but
to
I
2
get-
and 3.
Yeah.
Because the one that you're keeping, you're banking on.
Yeah.
But when it gets down to 2 and 3, I have to look at value in a trade, and I think Jim Schwartz has great value in a trade. I don't know how many teams would come to the Browns and say, "Hey, look, we'll give you something for Andrew Berry." And I hate to say
That's
that
fair.
because I respect Andrew Berry and think by and large he's done a really good job.
I'm gonna keep Schwartz.
Wow.
I'm keeping Schwartz. I don't want to deal with no defense. I don't want to deal with that no more. You stay over there like Spagnola and be there for 35 years. Dick LeBeau, 40 years over that side. I think the person who has the most value is Kevin Stefanski. Somebody will mess around, pay a first-round pick for Stefanski.
Yeah, he might have more value than Schwartz in a trade.
If Stefanski was in this coaching search,
He would have got a job.
he's washing all of those guys.
Yes.
Like they take Stefanski. Now, Andrew Berry, I like him. If I cut him, I think he could get a job somewhere else. I just think that if you comparing them, I think the other two have done a better job than Andrew Berry. Not saying he hasn't. I think if they are like at a A-, he's at a B+.
Yeah, it's a good point, G. I would. In the end, I'm going to go with Jay on this. I'm going to go keep Stefanski, trade Schwartz, and cut Berry. But I like them all.
All right, next up, let's talk about some quarterbacks here. And you can take this however you want. Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins. Keep, cut, trade.
Dang, man. This is like saying you go to BW3s, you be like, do you want mild, medium, or regular? Like you're like, well,
I know because it's interesting the 3 guys he gave us.
Well,
Of all of them, I'm keeping Dak.
Dak and Cousins have both been excellent regular season players and bad postseason players.
That's
They're very similar. I don't really know that
Don't you
Dak's
think
any
Dak,
better than
though,
Cousins.
has a higher ceiling in the regular season?
guess.
Cousins has never had a regular season like Dak just had.
He's put up some huge numbers.
That's true. I say that, and I'm not completely sure that's
yeah,
true.
I mean, it's close. I mean, and then Watson has the highest ceiling of them all, but I don't know if he can ever reach it again. So
And, again, on the trade part of it, you got to trade that contract, too.
do you want us to factor that in, or we got to decide individually?
he said, take it how you want.
Yeah, however you want.
How do you want it?
If you ask me,
Who are you keeping? Let's start there.
I'm keeping Dak. I'm trading Cousins. I'm cutting Deshaun if I
That's-
had to.
that's
I
what
think
I'm
he's the
doing,
worst
too.
of the 3 right now.
Yeah, but
Now, Cousins
you know
is coming
what?
off a bad
I'm
injury.
going to call an audible.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm going to keep Dak.
Yeah.
I am trading Deshaun.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to factor in the contract.
Yeah.
If I factor in the contract, I got to cut him.
Right, sure.
And I think he's younger than Cousins by a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why I think on the trade market, if there was no salary attached to it,
Yeah.
more eyebrows would be raised when I said I'm willing to move Deshaun than would be raised if I said I'm willing to move Kirk.
Kirk is 35.
Yeah, and that's So that one's easy for me.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Man,
now be careful.
I'm taking. Listen, first of all, out of all these three, I need. If I feel like I want to get to a Super Bowl, I need somebody with a big ceiling, and I don't think Kirk Cousins and Dak got the ceiling. I'm gonna go with Deshaun Watson. I'm keeping him, and I feel like I can't trade his contract anyway. Kirk Cousins is 35, just came off an injury. I'm cutting you, and I think I can get something for Dak Prescott. New start somewhere else and build around him. I think I'll get some from Dak Prescott.
Really are all in on Deshaun.
I have no
it's
choice.
A real thing.
You have no choice.
No, you have a choice.
I get your angle
G's
of it,
thinking.
and I agree. If he played, the Houston Deshaun was better than either of these guys.
But guys, you said your knock on Dak, and I'm assuming that you would say this too, is the playoffs.
Right.
But what has Deshaun done in the playoffs?
But Deshaun hasn't played as long as those guys. He hasn't had as many chances to fail as those guys.
Well,
have.
that's true.
Yeah, and
now he hasn't done anything in the playoffs either. But he hasn't failed as often as they have.
I look at it.
True. Their track record of failure.
I look at it. It's like the military. Listen, man, I can't be half-stepping when I'm going up against Mahomes and them. I can't. I need you to be able to hit another level. Kirk Cousins, we can't have you going 20 or 32 and check down Charlie.
You know what I wonder? We talked about, Joe Flacco actually said, or his coach, somebody told us, maybe it was Joe, that there's that light that goes off in the playoffs, and then you finally get it. And I wonder if in the second half of the Cowboys' loss to the Packers, if Dak didn't get it. If you just watch that second half, Dak Prescott looked really good. Now, the pressure was off.
That's what I'm talking. That's exactly what I was going to say.
But maybe that was enough to get him over the hump in the future.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a chance again. John Elway wasn't young when he won his first Super Bowl.
No, and John got boat raced in his first two, right?
Dak's out of here.
Go ahead, Mike.
For the record, I actually agree with G on that one. To win a Super Bowl, you need a ceiling, and I'm trusting the guy.
Hey, I don't think it's crazy either.
Ceiling,
I don't think it's crazy. So far, you've given us two excellent ones. I got to get
Yeah, the pairing's really
that was
tough,
hard.
man.
That was real hard.
Yeah. All right, next one. This has nothing to do with Browns, but I think these are all guys in the conversation for second, third, and fourth best quarterbacks in football behind Mahomes. Keep cut trade. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson.
I hate you.
Now, you know what I'm going.
Well, and I'm going where
I'm
you're
going to
going.
take. I think I leave my biases out of it. Obviously, Burrow was hurt this year.
I'm keeping Burrow.
But I'm keeping Burrow.
He's the only guy to have real playoff success.
Right. And he's the only guy who's beaten Mahomes. You talk about, I got to beat Mahomes. Well, I know he can beat Mahomes.
He's done
he
it.
has. I'm trading Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are close. And Lamar is probably going to have 2 MVPs, so you could argue he's been better in those 2 years. The difference is I'm way more worried about Lamar getting hurt than I am Josh Allen getting
Even though
hurt.
Josh runs too much for my liking,
Right, but he's never missed a game.
No.
Never, because he's built like a brick
So
house.
I'm exactly where you are.
So I'm keeping Burrow, I'm trading Allen, I'm cutting Lamar, but it's another great question.
Okay, I like to think of it a different way. Which version of the Browns would be the best if you took one of those guys and put them on a roster as is?
Which version of the Joe Burrow, to me.
So you put Burrow in the Browns.
I mean, with Stefanski.
Yeah, what's Stefanski?
He'd kill it with Joe Burrow. I bet Stefanski wakes up at night from dreams that Joe Burrow is his quarterback.
I mean, listen, I think Stefanski would succeed with any of these guys.
I do
They're
too.
all excellent quarterbacks.
But
I think if you ask Kevin Stefanski of those 3 guys, who would you want? In truth, he was never going to get out, but you asked him the truth, I think he'd say Burrow. Now, I don't know that for sure.
And then I think it would be Josh, and then
yes,
I think it would be Lamar.
I think it would be in that order.
Can you? I don't even want to say that.
I can't imagine it.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna go with them. I'm a big fan of Can You Slay the Dragon? And
he's done it.
Burrow slayed the dragon. The rest of the two is baffled by. And matter of fact, he made y'all look bad. It was low key a gentleman's 21-point spanking. It did, like when you watch what Mahomes did to Allen and Mahomes did in y'all's backyard. It was like low key. He wasn't even pressed about it.
Yeah. If you're grading them based on playoff success, Burrow's been the best, Allen's been the second best, and Lamar's been the worst in the playoffs.
And that's
doesn't mean he can't turn it around. He's still very young.
That's true.
I think Lamar's actually younger than Burrow. by like a couple of months.
Yeah,
even though he was drafted.
Really?
Yeah, because he was so young when he was drafted. Mike, can you check that out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because Burrow had the transfer year where he sat out.
I think Burrow's like a year older than Jackson. Or
Burrow like 35.
All those guys are all around the same age.
Yeah.
Lamar,
Allen.
even Mahomes, Allen,
Yeah, they're all close.
Baker, they're all like pretty close in age.
Lamar Jackson is 25 days younger than Joe Burrow.
Wow.
How old is Lamar now? 26, 27?
27. Just turned 27.
So
Joe
he'll be
Burrow's
20
27 and 53 days. Lamar Jackson's 27 and 27 days.
So look, hey, watch it. Is that the same draft? They the same draft?
No, Lamar was in Josh Allen's draft. Josh Allen, 27 and 256 days, so he's a couple months older.
No, I think the 2020 draft might be the greatest draft ever of quarterbacks.
It's loaded.
Because you've got Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Hurts,
and Jordan Love.
Let's see how it plays
They're all
out.
good quarterbacks.
The 1983 draft was quarterback draft.
Marino,
Unbelievable.
Elway.
Yeah.
No, was it Elway?
Kelly, Marino, Elway.
Bledsoe?
Tony
No,
Eason
no.
was in that draft
Yeah,
and
no,
had
no.
some success early, but he faded off.
The Jets drafted somebody.
Tony Eason.
Yeah.
In
No, that was the
2020,
Patriots.
the 2004
Oh,
draft,
it was
Ken
O'Brien.
O'Brien. Yeah,
Ken
yeah.
O'Brien.
there was also Eli, Big Ben, and Phillip Rivers in the same
That was a
class.
good one,
That's
too.
tough.
Right, but this might be
tough.
5 guys. No, they're
Yeah.
they're not going to be all Hall
tough.
of Fame quarterbacks,
No.
but 5 good starting quarterbacks.
That's tough.
Okay, what else we have?
We got 3 more. This is the Mount Rushmore of Cavs shooters minus a head because I didn't put myself on here. All-time great Cavs shooters. Sam Merrill, Kyle Korver, Boobie Gibson. And yes, Sam Merrill's in this conversation.
I mean, he's only done it for 8 weeks.
Don't care.
I'm still going with Sam Merrill. I'm keeping him. I know. I just
agree.
look.
I agree.
His numbers are Steph-like. And that's all I have to do. I know it's a short, but you know what? 8 weeks that's who you are.
Hey, McNuggets,
that's who you are. So I'm keeping him.
McNuggets, I might be able to retire off that pick. I might as well just
That was a
retire.
good one.
it.
That was phenomenal.
I
Well,
just
between
go
that
home.
and DeJuan Jones,
Hey,
he
that
did
was
very
that.
well.
I'm gonna go
And-
sleep on that.
I'm gonna cut Boobie Gibson. Wow. Yeah.
You just personally offended Earl.
I know I did. Sorry, Earl.
He was only hot against the Pistons.
That was it. He had a flash. But
He
I
was
really
hot.
like Boobie. Boobie's a great guy.
Shout
I
out
love
to-
him.
shout out
Is
to-
it just their time with the Cavs or their whole careers?
It could be their whole careers, but I was
Then,
thinking.
Then I'm keeping Korver. I'm trading Boobie, and I'm cutting Sam. I like Sam Merrill, but he's only done it for 8
I
weeks.
was only going on their time with the Cavs. What's
Yeah.
Korver's 3-point percentage for his career? I don't think it's 43%, but it's got to be close.
Kyle Korver's up there in terms of the all-time great three-point
I know he
shooters.
is.
He really is.
I
For
know
his
he is.
career, 42.9%.
so technically, my guy's got him.
I'm keeping Sam Merrill. I'm trading Ashton Kutcher.
You're keeping Sarah Merrill, too? Ashton Kutcher.
I'm trading Ashton Kutcher and Boobie. I love you to death, bro. Shout out to you, bro. But
He's getting
cut.
we got to cut. And by the way, McNuggets, this is a fair question. I'm going to ask him in a couple of weeks.
You talking to Boobie?
Nah, I'm talking about Imani Bates. Is he?
He's coming on, yeah.
Whose 3-point shot is better?
Me or him? No, it's
No.
definitely Imani.
I'm talking about him and Sam Merrill.
It's Sam.
Oh, I wish we could have a 3-point shootout.
What is Imani Bates shooting?
42.6, which is not 43.1.
No, he's shooting
Okay. And it's in the
25.
G
No,
League.
that's not true. He's shooting 25% from three. That's a fact.
He always detracted. He had to throw it back since
I'm
one.
such a hater.
By the way,
But that's a fact. I mean, I'm not making that up.
I want to see an Imani Bates, Sam Merrill, Mikey McNuggets
3-point shootout.
That
I would
be
love
great.
to set that up in the offseason. Sam Merrill. So we talked to Sam
in June. Can we make that happen?
I think I got pretty
An
close to the
Ultimate
Cavs
Cleveland
guys.
Sports Show extravaganza.
Yeah.
We get the 3 of them together. We pick a court. And we televise it live. I'm telling you, people.
Listen,
would
I'll tell you right now.
We need some. I think we should also get like whoever the best 3-point shooter is on the Cleveland State women's team because I want complete diversity there. I think that will create another level of energy.
Can you imagine though if she just
I will
wipes
not.
out
And
everybody?
Earl has to participate
Certainly
too.
could.
Huh?
Earl has to participate too.
And before every shot, he's got to dribble between his legs.
We gonna
Yes.
do it. We gonna do it at. I think we should hold it at the court upstairs in our office at the Pop Shot.
We should do it. We should do it at Brad Sellers Court in Warrensville. Brad
That's a
Sellers
great
Arena.
point.
Maybe the warm up will be me and Earl playing 1-on-1.
Beautiful.
The warm-up act.
We got 2 more though, and
right.
the last one's gonna take some
Go ahead.
time.
These have been
All
really
right.
good,
He
Mike.
did
Next
one with
one.
actors that's going to make me lose
And
my
by the
mind.
way, I'll
but go
forget at the end of the show, so I want to take 10 seconds right now. Anthony is directing today's show.
Yeah, he's done a nice job.
And
Good job.
Anthony, I haven't noticed a missed beat. You've been on
I
all
missed-
your
I
cameras,
noticed
Great job.
all your takes. I know Steve is behind you telling
Yeah.
you what to do, but
I-
you've done a really good job.
I did happen to notice early there was a graphic that was up that should have
did
been up, the
mention
Denver
one.
Broncos
Yeah.
graphic.
It's okay.
I noticed that, but besides that, I didn't notice anything.
Well
So
done,
you did a
very
great
good.
job.
Two more real quick. Keep cut trade. Cavs LeBron, Heat LeBron, Lakers LeBron.
Cutting Lakers LeBron.
Yeah, that's easy.
I'm keeping Heat LeBron, and I'm trading Cavs LeBron.
I'm keeping Cavs LeBron, trading Heat LeBron, and cutting Lakers.
I'm with
LeBron.
Bull on this one.
So we both agree that we're cutting Lakers.
Yeah,
LeBron.
I mean to me that was easy.
LeBron, I believe, the peak of his powers was 2017, 2018. Had the mental status. He knew how to control the game. I've never seen him person control the game like he did against the Boston Celtics in Game 7 when we had those.
Oh my!
He controlled that whole thing.
You're right about the maturity part.
He just
peaked then.
Oh gosh! Give me. I'm keeping that Cleveland LeBron. I'm going to trade that Miami LeBron because he can get whoever he wanted. That was his peak of his physical powers. He can get whatever.
Well,
he
so
wanted
it's
to
a
trade.
clean sweep.
Yeah, and
I'm going to
cutting
admit
him.
that I was wrong, and I'm going to jump on board with you guys
Let's go.
you make a good point about the mental
Yeah.
acuity that he had acquired. When he left here, I thought that he was the most complete player
I've ever-
on the planet of any era
Ever
of
living.
all time. Defense, offense, game takeover skills, clutch skills, and mental skills. He had it all.
And the physical drop off from Miami to back in Cleveland was less than
That
the
it is.
mental upgrade.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
In my opinion, I agree. Cavs is the keep. You trade the Heat, even though maybe the sustained success in Miami was a little bit. The peak was a little longer.
It was.
The best LeBron
Was here.
was the second coming when he came back, and that was the best version. All right, this one has a little caveat. There's 4 categories for this last one. You put yourself in the mindset. You run Warner Brothers Studios. These are actors.
Yep.
If you trade this person in an actor scenario, he's going to Lionsgate. G, is that we decided?
Yeah, go right to Lionsgate. Shout out to 50
Lionsgate.
He goes to Bollywood, according to
Yeah.
Anthony. So
Yeah.
that is. So there's a caveat. So there's 4 actors. You keep cut trade and you franchise tag. Franchise tag means you get to make one more movie with that person, and then they retire from acting forever.
Oh, wow.
So there's 4. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks, Jack Nicholson,
Jesus.
and Robert De Niro.
I got it.
I mean, I know. Wow, those are 4 of the all-time greats.
Can I start with the franchise? It's got to be De Niro. He's probably only got one good movie left in him.
I
He's
mean-
the oldest, although Jack's probably as
Nicholson
old.
might be older.
I thought
He might
Nicholson
be.
was dead.
No.
No, I swear to goodness, I thought I'm like,
Oh, God, no. No.
Dang, Jack still kicking.
Jack. Oh, my
Dang,
God.
man, my
Are
bad.
we getting their whole careers or just where their careers are now?
You get the whole careers, yeah.
Okay, because like De Niro's
Well,
been
that's
making crappy
tricky,
movies
though.
lately.
Low key.
Yeah, he's been
Low
making some
key.
bad movies.
Anthony did pick a
De
black and
Niro
white picture,
lately.
G. I can see why you think he's dead here, but he's very much alive.
Oh my God, this is now.
I'll start. I'm gonna start. It's easy money. You already know where I'm going. Hey, listen. Hey, you know what the gas chamber smell like? Pine oil. Denzel Washington is. I'm keeping him. I am going to franchise Tom Hanks. I think he has more left in him. One good more movie, giving him opportunity to get him an Oscar. Jack Nicholson, you gotta retire. We're putting him out the pasture.
You're cutting Jack?
Jack gotta go.
But
Jack
how
gotta
much
go.
trade value does De Niro have?
He's
He's made some bombs lately.
enough to get something back because people think that he got something left in the tank.
Well, I've learned the last couple years he doesn't.
You know
Right,
what's crazy? What's crazy is I'm physically pained answering this question because I love all 4.
It hurts.
But here's what I would do. I'm with G. I'm keeping Denzel. He's my all-time
He
favorite
is number
actor.
1. I agree with that, too.
I am franchise tagging Tom Hanks.
Yes, sir. There you go. 2 for 2.
You know what? I'm sorry. We're not on. No, I'm trading Tom Hanks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Tom Hanks, he's still got a lot to
He's
give.
still got- yeah,
I
that's
can't
still
force him to
something.
retire after one more movie. I could get the most out of either in a trade. I'd get the most for either Denzel or Tom Hanks. I love them both. They're 2 of my all-time favorites. But if I had to choose, I love Denzel a little more than Tom Hanks. So I would trade Tom Hanks because I'm franchise tagging Jack because Jack only got one more movie left.
You think
Nicholson, I don't even know if he's making movies
But do you
anymore.
think De Niro has more than one left?
No, I'm cutting De Niro because I think he's done.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
yeah.
But here's what I really want to know, and we only have a minute and a half. Can you guys tell us what their gross box office receipts were in the order 1 to 4? So whose
Give me
movies
one
have made
sec.
the most money? Who's number 2? Who's number 3? I would think Denzel. God, they're all got to be in top 4.
Denzel and Tom Hanks are younger, so they've been stars in more movies more recently where the money's bigger. So that's an advantage for them.
I think they do that. I think there's a formula where they do it
Kind
so
of even that out.
Yeah, where inflation is figured into that.
The fact that you don't have.
I love
Leonardo DiCaprio. You don't have Brad Pitt.
Well, I think number 1 is Harrison Ford, if I'm not mistaken.
The Star Wars. Hey, real quick, I got one super chat, then you guys can finish this discussion.
And
Shuttlesworth
Raised
says,
Lost Ark.
anytime Jay and Bull have a basketball take, a toilet flushes. Continue.
Wait, I didn't hear it. What did you say?
Shuttlesworth says, anytime Jay or Bull has a basketball take, a toilet flushes. That was our only super chat today.
Shuttlesworth, what time's your show? First of all, what channel is it on? And then what time is it? And then you can get back to us.
I can't find your stat.
Is he at least Jesus Shuttleworth?
I just was Shuttlesworth. I just read what it says.
Well, maybe we'll have the stat in overtime, Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
maybe
got
we'll
to
have the
find
stat in
it.
overtime.
It's out there. That stat exists. Because I've
See you on
read it
OT.
before.
By the way, the
I got a
greatest.
question.
Yeah.
Quick. We got 10 seconds.
Jesus Shuttlesworth or my man from Six Man, Antoine.